What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Heavy Metallurgy. We are at number 263. I'm Marty. I'm one of your hosts tonight. Good to see you. And Alan, as always, hi. Good to see you. Happy Friday.
Hey, good to see you too.
What you been up to?
Not much. Kind of settling into the summer routine. Yeah, teaching summer classes is a little different. Kids wrapping up school for the year. Starting to deal with summer evening thunderstorms and all of that. So if I spontaneously disappear tonight, I'll see if I have enough battery on the phone to hop back in or not. But it's been an okay week. Just wrapping up lots of little things. Hello to everybody in the chat. Good to see folks showing up there. And how are things in your neck of the woods, Marty?
Fine. Good weather. It's nice out. It's cool. Sunny. Good. Nothing new to report, seriously. It's old and boring. Typical. But we are joined by two not too old and boring people. Returning guests, of course. We've got Charlie Anderson and Austin Lunn. Oh, wait a minute. We got to hit this. There we go. Good to see everybody. Thanks for joining us, guys. What's been going on?
Work. A lot of work. I have been really busy at the brewery, and I wrecked my back brewing last week and still had to brew through the next day because each one of our beers is 2 turns, and I work alone. So,
I work alone, yeah, with nobody else.
And I'm the only brewer because it's just me and Nate, and has been since we reopened. And so this is the first time I've had an injury that was really bad and then had to work through it. And so I ended up just damaging my back worse every day. And then, this week I had to brew again, and I had the weekend to get better. And now I'm done for another 3 days. So hopefully when I brew next week, I'll be able to stand up straight and not shuffle around like an 80-year-old man anymore.
I hear you. It sucks. I'm suffering a similar affliction. Mine was just lifting a record shelf, and it's been a long, humped over week. Charlie, how about you? What's been going on, man? Good to see you back as well.
Thanks for having me back. Thankfully, we're not talking about In Flames this week, but really honored to be here. Thank you guys for letting me back in. Man,
I've just touch and go there after that whole Angel Witch Boston comment last time. But, you narrowly had enough votes to make it.
Yeah. Ooh, close. But I've just been kind of like Austin, working a lot. There's a day job. I'm a tutor, so I tutor from this seat very, very often. And it's spring into summer. The lawn is needing a lot more regular mowing, so I'm working on my Hescher's tan. It goes all the way up to the shoulder line.
Sun's out, guns out.
Sun's out, guns out. Eating a lot of yogurt and just trying to get through.
Awesome.
Got to get that protein. What can I say?
Yeah, as Aaron Charles famously said.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to see you guys. And, it's not like nothing's been going on. We've had a very successful tour you guys just did of Europe. You just got back from that about a month ago. And we greet this album into the Panopticon legacy. Basically translates to The Haunted Heart. This is oh my God, what number album is this at this point? Help me out here.
I think it might be 13.
Lucky number 13.
Here, let me go to Metal Archives for the first time tonight.
Well, and the problem is that a lot of people don't consider On the Subject of Mortality to be an album. But I do. I made it. And it's also a concept album, which ties into...
Yeah.
It's a concept record. It's actually a dual concept record. It's because it follows the 7th seal. Oh, awesome. I love Thy Light. Absolutely adore them. But yeah, it follows the 7th seal, the Bergman film. It's my favorite movie. But it's also kind of like, I use that as an allegory for processing the death of my dad, and like the kind of reveal that happens when you experience a death that's really close to you, because he died when I was 22, and it kind of peels back your own mortality, and you become aware of your own fragility. And so,
especially the older we get, the less we think about it every day. At least I do. Of course, I'm a little closer to the great beyond than you are, but still.
But the interesting thing about that film, the Seventh Seal, was that Bergman was also processing thanatophobia. He was processing death anxiety. And so that's what he was writing about. So I was writing about that and using the film and samples from the film as imagery. So it was like a concept album, but on two different levels. And so anyways, long story short, a lot of people don't consider it a record because it came out as two splits as a CD, and it was intended to come out on vinyl at the same time, but then it took like another year. So
yeah,
there you have it.
Well, we'll get into concepts of this new album here too, but this is, over a decade in the making. This album closes the Laurentian trilogy and ends. It's still a very emotional record, of course, but there's a slightly different vibe to it. It feels a little bit more, at times, optimistic, if that is probably the right. It feels like it's coming from a happier place. Would you agree with this statement, or am I off the mark?
Yes and no. I mean, Charlie and I didn't want to just do the same melodies over and over again. Like, how many times can you write a song in melodic minor, but like we chose to we chose to experiment with some different vibes, and we kind of wanted it to almost be like our prog record, kind of. The influences that we drew from sonically for this record were really varied, and they were really different. And it's the sonic palette is different, and there was an intention to be less extreme for most of the record because we wanted it to be cinematic, and we wanted it to follow like we wanted it to kind of follow like a sonic landscape that had parts that were less varied and parts that were less dramatic, and then kind of more sweeping parts that were more emotionally intense, and so that it kind of carried like a film score, basically, is what we were trying to do. And because the album deals so much with, there's this story of this old hermit in the kind of one of the last people to live in the BWCA area here, and because it's based, after the 1980s, no one was allowed to live in the BWCA anymore. And so
what is the BWCA for those of us who don't know? What is that?
Boundary Waters.
Oh, okay.
Wilderness canoe area. And so basically, like, once they established that, Sigurd Olsen established that as this kind of protected landmass. And everybody kind of slowly moved out of it. There was only a few full-time residents anyways. And so this guy was living on the cusp of it. And so it kind of follows his life and the choices that led him to living in the wilderness. And it was loosely based off of people like Dick Prenicky and some real life people that I know. And, so I wanted the lyrics to all be written from the perspective of him in his 80s at the last week of his life. So like each of the lyrics is dated. It's 1 week, and it's his perspective and his thoughts about like what he was going through and what he was thinking about, reflecting on his life. And then each song lyric has a story, and that story is an impactful moment from his youth. And those impactful moments are non-sequential. They jump around all throughout his young life. And so each one of these experiences impacted the decision that he made to live alone in the wilderness and impacted his perspective on the world. But then as he's, facing the end of his life. He's living with regrets that he never had a family and that he never had loved ones, that he lived alone in the wild. And so he has no one to share his life with. And towards the end of the album, that becomes like a thorn in his side, and he's really realizing that his story ends with him. And it's also important to note that the album ties into the Rhyme of Memory in the sense that it deals with some of the same ideas that are touched on that record. It also deals with immigration issues. You know, the album title, you know, hjemsøkte, hjertet, is in Norwegian, mostly because there was already an album called The Haunted Heart, like a country record. And so I did it in Norwegian because that also was relevant to the story, because it's also an immigrant story. During that time period when there was lots of Swedes and Norwegians that moved into the area. And you can't talk about Minnesota in the early 1900s without talking about that. That's a massive part of the history and the culture of the state. And so when writing all of this, I had to do a ton of research. I mean, even down to like, when were chainsaws invented? You know, like, because his father was a logger. You know, and so it's just little details, like, was there, you know, when the final scene in the stories at the end is his birth, you know, what kind of hospitals were there in Duluth where he was born at that time? And so there was, you know, there's a lot of information that I had to go into to make the story consistent. And so there were drafts and drafts focused on making a consistent and believable story that actually could have happened, that didn't just sound like I pulled it out of my ass. And so this was a huge challenge. So not only was it writing the music and trying to write a record with different ideas and exploring different territories, but also the ideological side took a ton of thinking. And I was working on this record before the Rhyme of Memory even came out, because of how in depth the concept is.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you have it.
Right on. No, I remember, you know, throughout the writing of this album, I mean, you started this 3 years ago, but, you know, early on, I mean, we talk often, and you would come on and we talk on the phone, and you're like, I'm having so much fun doing this. And it was refreshing hearing you create in a place where it wasn't coming out of, you know, something cataclysmic or personal. Obviously, giving music, you know, writing music, there's always a level of personal and emotional contact or connection, of course, but to hear, you know, it actually coming from a place of joy, just to the creation of the album. And I think it partially kind of spilled into this record. And I do want to say also the fact that, you know, a band that's been going for so long, you being largely the sole, you know, creator of it, a lot of bands run out of gas. Let's be honest. You know, bands, they start off, you know, oh, I like their first album or their second album, and then it's like treading water or whatever. And I never really have gotten that sort of impression with Panopticon. There's always something new. And if anything, as you've gone on, this is a little bit of ass kissing here, I guess, everybody, but bear with me. As you've gone on, things have indeed become more cinematic and huge in scope. And, you know, Charlie, you too play a part in that, especially on the new album, for, you know, all the string orchestration that's gone into it. I mean, you and Austin sat and figured some of this out, and I think you kind of went and built upon that in your own studio. What went into the...
Yeah. You know, it's been really wild to have this album be done and come out. And like something that I did and that Austin, I think we also both kind of planned to do this, but I took a long hike out in the Columbia River Gorge area. So the Columbia River going east kind of borders Oregon and Washington. And I went out there and did a hike up a mountain and listened to all three of the albums in the Laurentian trilogy, front to back. And again, Into the Light, Rhyme of Memory, and the new one, hjemsøkte, hjertet. I will say the name on live stream.
I won't. Forget it. I'm not Norwegian.
And, you know, it's just, it's so interesting because every single one of the records had a very different writing and recording process for the strings. The first And Again to the Light was me working completely remotely, with the least collaboration. Actually, it was the only record that we did entirely remote from each other. Rhyme of Memory was the first one where we had a chance to actually like collaborate and write and record and work on all of the ideas together in person when I was living up in Minnesota, and I visited for a while too. I think was when we finished everything up. Also when we started working on the original tracks for Laurentian Blue. And then the new record was kind of like a hybrid of those two things. So I went up there, we wrote all of the material together. It's all like all of the writing for this record was entirely a collaboration.
That's awesome.
So like the string parts are just as much Austin's as they are mine. And I've always like felt that way, but especially on this record, literal melodies and harmony ideas that were bouncing off of each other. And yeah, like Austin says, very different sonic palette of inspiration. I always think back to like when we tried our best to do a Stormblast moment on Rhyme of Memory, but this time around, like all of the records that we've just listened to together at your house, Austin, is like Air Formation sticks out to me. A lot of the softer, like not metal stuff that we've kind of been gravitating towards putting on when we're hanging out together. I mean, we still listen to a shitload of metal too, but those are the things that I think were like much more active guides and inspirations than any like metal example.
Well, it was because we didn't want to repeat ourselves, which is difficult, like in a genre that's so, there's, if you break out of it too much, it starts to kind of like not be the thing,
Yeah.
if you push the boundary too much, then it stops being black metal,
Right.
and so we kind of felt the need. We were like, we have to find a way to push the boundary, but still not have people be pissed off that we went too far. And that was one of the things that I actually enjoyed playing with, was like, how do we reel it back in? Shit. I won't. I am intentionally not doing that this time. Yeah, no, we had to find a way to keep it consistent and reel it back in without it turning into just being a prog record. And this record, there was a lot of playing with time signatures. There was a lot of, there's a song that is in 13/8, and so we definitely played with stuff. And I loved that, like, one of our reference songs that we used for Woodland Caribou was a Galactic Cowboys song.
Yeah.
It was a bonus track from Space in Your Face. That's like a hidden track at the end of the CD, and we pulled that, and I showed it to Charlie, and I was like, I want this feeling, and that's literally like what we pulled for that song, and then that song sounds nothing like that at all.
I love it. Like, everybody's gonna think, oh, they listened to Godspeed You Black Emperor there. And it's like, nah.
No. I mean,
yeah, but
huge
no.
Godspeed fan. I mean, I love Godspeed, but we definitely pulled from some strange places to do this record. And one of the bands that really inspired me for A Culture of Wilderness was this Canadian death metal band that's super good. I'm gonna try to find the name of the album.
Gorguts?
No.
You're talking about that one that came out on Transcending Obscurity,
Yeah,
right?
Crown of Madness, their album Memories Fragmented. I loved that record, and I needed like a really brutal moment on the record, something really, really heavy and something really dark and kind of dissonant. And that record, I would listen to that record when it came out on my runs in the mornings. I would go out and go for a run and listen to that album. And I was like, this is like the feeling that I want, this like suffocating, but yet still emotional. And so when I went back into writing, these were the riffs that this record was like really inspiring to me, because I wanted something profoundly emotional and also like really brutal and dark. And so that record kind of spurred that. And then we sat down in here in this studio with Charlie, and I was like, what do we do? I don't have any ideas. And Charlie's like, I got it. And he went at it, man.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
and that song in particular was really brutal because, the thing was, I actually still have it on my key fob here, but the entire record was demoed on this flash drive. I think I still have the whole thing on there. We bought this last minute from like a corner store. And basically once we knew that we had all the ideas locked in that we wanted, I took the record back home on a literal flash drive on a plane and began to layer out all of the ideas. So the Rhyme of Memory and Again Into the Light, I would say there's probably, anytime that you have the strings on there, at least the violins, there's like 10 to 12 tracks.
Yeah.
And that's a lot to mix in. This record is somewhere on every track between 32, and I counted, there's one track that has a total of 78 tracks of strings. So
Wow.
Yeah, that's
you're
not
talking,
including my tracks.
not including Austin's tracks.
Wow.
So we ran into a legitimate winter sun moment where we crashed Spencer.
Go fund me. I need a new sauna
Yeah.
and a studio. Yeah.
Right. So what wound up happening was like, so Spencer goes out to mix the record with Austin in person, and I fly my stuff out to them over Dropbox, and we wind up crashing Spencer's computer. So what I had to do is in my studio, what I basically did for the record was I mixed every section of the orchestra, because that was another thing too, is like, yeah, the other songs and albums have been orchestral in a way, but this is like literally arranged with all of the string elements of a string orchestra, minus double bass. But there's 2 cello sections, 2 viola sections, and 4 violin sections for ensemble on everything. I mixed each of those separate layers into a stereo track and sent those out to Spencer, so that rather than having, 78 tracks to mix in everywhere, he had like 7 or 8 to mix in everywhere that were already stereo spread. So there was a lot of fun, crazy stuff about like getting the record to actually work on the back end. But I don't know. Yeah, and it wasn't even like going into this record, we wanted it to be fully orchestral. I just remember when I first heard the demos from you, Austin, I was like, that's just what I felt needed to happen. I don't know. Like there's a lot more melodic and harmonic room on the album overall.
We actually went into it with like, we're not going to do that. We went into it with this idea that we weren't going to, we wanted it to be more intimate and more up close, but that's we were like, okay, we're not going to do a ton of layers of strings, blah, blah, blah. But then it's just the natural process of making a record where like sometimes your intentions aren't what actualizes, and so we ended up making it the most orchestral thing that we had ever done. When we went into it, our initial discussions, I still have, after the original, demos were done of the record, we had like a Zoom call where we like, when you were still in Texas, where we went through the record and we were like writing down notes of like what we wanted to do. And I still have those, but what exists now does not reflect what we intended. And I just think that that's really fascinating, that as we got in a creative space with each other, like here in this room, we were like, and that's what I love about writing with you, is that when the two of us are in a room working on stuff, it's almost like, kind of like, I bet you won't.
Yeah. It's like the little Tasmanian devil, just like,
and it starts to be this like game of stipulations where it's like, it just grows and grows and grows and grows, because our musical camaraderie, and like I admire you so much and I look up to you as a musician so much that it inspires me to push my boundaries and to get better as a musician, and I really admire you, man. I really look up to you.
I mean,
And so
likewise, man. It's awesome. And
it's awesome to have a partner, a musical partner. You know, I tell everybody you're my musical soulmate because like I can never imagine like, you know,
Sonic
I don't
scissoring. Sorry,
like,
sorry.
I don't want to be on stage without Charlie. You know, it's
Yeah.
and the only time that I've been on stage without Charlie since we met was when I performed with Fauna and when I played a funeral. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, like that's
which I was supposed to play at.
you were supposed
So-
to be at the funeral, yeah.
Well,
But that's cool.
yeah, I was
You
like,
know.
well, shit. Oh, but-
Life gets in the way, but yeah, the writing process for this record was really fun, and it's, you know, it's always a little sad when it's over. You know, there's always a little bit of grief at the end where it's not like grief where you're like, you know, destroyed, but you're always a little bit. It's like bittersweet. You know, the end, it's over. You know,
Yeah.
and now the album's out and people have heard it, and it's kind of like, oh, well. And I'm sure in a couple of years I'll write another record, you know, but it won't be this. It'll be different. We'll see.
Well, I got to ask. I mean, it's been a long time coming to get this trilogy closed, and now that you have, do you feel like you've said everything you wanted to say in it?
100%.
Yeah.
It was all planned out. It was all planned out. You know, I had the ideas, you know, in the beginning of how I was going to do it and how I was going to, each record was going to take it from a different perspective. And again, Into the Light is this like personal record about my own personal experience and the hardships that I went through and how I processed them. The Rhyme of Memory had this like philosophical perspective, you know, talking about midlife crisis and also an ecological crisis, climate crisis, and finding a way to talk about two things at once. And then the hjemsøkte is like talking about some of those same issues, but from a totally different perspective, a fictional narrative that expresses what I want to express through a completely different lens that's very foreign to me, you know, because I've always written from my perspective. So I really had to push myself to step outside of that and to write from someone else's perspective and try to put myself in their shoes. And that was really hard. And it was an awesome exercise that helped me grow as a writer, helped me grow as a lyricist. You know, because I would get a line and I'd be like, oh man, I latch onto that. I really really understand that. I really want to dig into that. And then I'd have to pump the brakes and be like, hey, this is not about my feelings. This is about the story. And that was very challenging.
Yeah.
And so like, I did what I wanted to do, and things have to come to an end. Like sometimes you just got to be like, okay, it's done now. You know,
Yeah.
it's time to let go.
And now the slate is clean. You know,
Right.
you're talking the other day. You've got nothing stashed or hidden, or it's empty. What now?
I've
What?
got some demos of some like super raw black metal shit that I did like when I was testing this room out when I moved here. It's like 90s black metal sounding stuff. I was going to release it as like a secret project under a different name, but you know, I played it for Jan when he was here visiting, and he was like, dude, everybody's going to know it's you. They're going to hear the drums and they're going to know it's you. And I was like,
Yeah,
wow,
you have a
shit.
definite characteristic about the way you play drums, for sure.
Yeah. So, but you know, I'll spend time investing in my time in other projects. Like, you know, I've got Jan and I are working on a black metal project together that we're both writing for, and we're both playing together, and we have most of that record completed. And I'm really excited about that. You know, we haven't announced anything. It's got a name, it's got a logo, it's everything. And most of the album is done. I've just got to finish it, and then he and I want to meet together and like work on the vocals together, because we're going to split the vocals 50-50. And the idea is like no clean singing at all. I've told him no. And we're gonna mix it pretty lo-fi. Like that's part of the idea too. And then doing Ahamkara, and obviously doing stuff with Weft. And I would really like to do another Kolga record at some point. And then I'm working on I'm about to start working on a crust punk project with a friend of mine who is on the new album as well. So he and I have been talking, and we're gonna probably get going on that this summer. We're talking and shooting ideas back and forth. I don't know if there's anybody like in the chat or watching right now that is into crust at all, but
some are.
They're usually
well, it's Alex CF, so he and I are going to work on that. So yeah, there's going to be stuff, and I'm sure like at some point I will start writing the next record. I don't know what it'll. I always say this: I'm going to do a record that's a single LP, and I'm going to do it. I swear to God. But
I'd fall over dead if that happened. I just couldn't believe it. It wouldn't make any sense.
I would really like to. I would like to do a record that is shorter songs.
4 to 5 minute bangers.
That would be super fun. That would be a challenge, because I've been doing long form for so long.
Yeah,
it would be awesome.
Nice. Yeah.
So,
Alan, do you have questions? I'm sorry, I've just been rambling. Anything
No, it's fine. But no, that last point is interesting, because I was thinking about that. With the last couple of albums having a lot of longer songs, it feels like you might be at like one of those inflection points, like Rush hits, where they make all those classic very long songs for a long time, and then all of a sudden they kind of turn and like, we're going to see how much information we can compact into like a 5-minute song and put out an album like that. So yeah, the comment kind of reminds me of the mentality Rush. I was like, yeah, we've been doing this for a while, but we could challenge ourselves and see just can we write in that style but still pack a lot of information in there.
On each thing has its challenges, and long songs are challenging to keep it interesting. But I'm also like, I love long form black metal. Like I love this hypnotic, trancey, like I love, when you get a chance to like really sink into the riff and really, really dig into it. I mean, that's one of the reasons that I love bands like Van Mold. They really create this trance. And
well, plus you also like stuff like shoegaze, which has seeped into a bit
Totally.
into this new album too, and that it's a good union. Go ahead. Sorry, I'm interrupting. Go.
Oh no, you're 100% right. And I feel like there's a definite crossover. I mean, that's Lascaux. I mean, that's one of my favorite bands, and Lascaux is like, you can really get lost in it. And I think of like Beinrune alumni, like Blood of the Black Owl, like, if you only got 4 repetitions of a riff, you couldn't really get lost in it, So I do think that it has its value, but at the same time, like, having faster. I mean, the reason that we always play Into the Northwoods live is because it's a short, quick, it's a short, quick song that's fast paced. It's got all the parts, but it's and it's also easy from logistics. Playing live, you can kind of like the longer songs, it's harder to fit festival time slots. So when a festival says you got 45 minutes, and now we're looking at, well, each song is 8 to 15 minutes, we can only play a couple, and so it's nice to have these like shorter, like 4 to 5 minute songs, because that gives us some more diversity of what we can perform.
Right on. No, and go ahead, Alan. Is there anything more you wanted to go on there?
No, following up on one point that y'all made a few minutes ago, and it rings true for me, and I've seen it pop up like in other reviews and comments. is the fact that, this album, does have, its own character to it, that you're managed to find a way to push the boundaries for black metal nicely, adding a more of that symphonic, and cinematic is a really good word for it, but still kept it grounded in black metal. It doesn't feel like it went so far outside the lines, but at the same time, it sounds different from the albums that have come before it. It's not just revisiting what you've done before. And I think that's really resonated with folks. That's been a highlight. A lot of people have been pointing out that it's like, this is a cool new element. Anybody who's paying attention is going to know instantly this is not the same album that's been made before. But no one's going to accuse it of being like, oh, it's just a prog album, or it's just a new wave album or something. It still feels very black metal, but it also manages to feel very unique.
It's difficult to walk that line.
Very much so.
But I mean, that in itself is a challenge, and I enjoyed doing that. I mean, my initial inclination was to make a record that was just kind of like bootgazy, like shoegazy type stuff, like real wistful, and but I can't do it. I mean, it's the same sense of I can't make a ritualistic black metal record because I'm just too pissed off, and I just want to. I can't help that I just want to play death metal-y shit sometimes, and it's shit. I would love to make a death metal record, that would be super fun.
It's fun.
That's a huge chunk of my roots as well. I mean, that would be something that would be very enjoyable to me. So, I mean, who knows? I mean, and that's the cool thing, that this band has given me the opportunity to lean in different influences at different times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that kind of keeps, like Marty was saying, the project doesn't ever feel like it's gotten tired. There are so many bands that by the time you get to album 6 or 7, they're either dropping in quality or they're just really way out there in left field. But
just doing the same fucking thing over and over.
Or we're already stuck in a rut where it may sound fine, but I've heard you do it for the last 3 albums in a row. How many times do you want to go back to that same exact well? And somebody was pointing out in a review today with Panopticon that just hasn't happened. Even this far into the career, every album, avoids all those kind of pitfalls that so many other bands fall into.
I appreciate that. That's very nice of whoever that was to say that. I think a big part of it is just that I am such a fan of so much music, and I consume so much music. I feel sorry for the people who follow me on Bandcamp. I fully recognize that it is nuts, but I love music, and I consume much of it. It's the thing. It's my hobby. It's my passion, and I'm always searching for the next band that I'm going to listen to that's going to blow my mind. And all the time, I'm always finding new records that I'm like, wow, and then I listen to it obsessively, and then next thing that I listen to obsessively, and then I go back and listen to that thing that I was obsessed with last week too. It's because I have a gnarly record collection, and it's always expanding because of my love for this, and it's the reason I'm never going to move again. Because
it's bad. Moving sucks with the collection. It's awful.
Yeah. But no, I think that really does help Panopticon's sound be so unique. We're at a point in heavy metal history where so many musicians grew up listening to nothing but metal, and maybe even nothing but black metal or nothing but death metal. And they can write competent songs. They understand how to structure the things. They can pick it apart and put it back together, but they don't have anything new to interject into it. Those projects end up sounding very simple, not derogatory, but just what they're doing instantly. You hear it once or twice, and it's like, okay, that's a solid black metal album, but that's all it's going to be, because they don't have those other influences to inspire them to pull into the music, to start recombining things into anything different.
TJ, by the way. Hi, TJ.
Okay. Good.
Hey, TJ.
Hey,
but,
buddy.
Having a much wider, just love of music, not just metal music or not just black metal music, it gives you like a lot to work with, which is really cool. And just I think a lot of fans do, like you were saying, you feel sorry for folks sometimes. Those folks, that are just stuck in that one genre, though, they don't have those same tools to work with. It'd be nice to see folks. I like seeing folks check out new things, even if they don't end up liking it. It at least exposes them to something different. They might find something they really do like.
Maybe you guys do this too. I don't know. But like sometimes I like stash records that I may not be into right now, but I know that at some point I'm going to go visit it. I like buy that and then stash it for myself for later. Like right now I haven't been on a big death metal kick, but I am still finding those things, and then I'll get it and then I'll put it in the pile for when I have my death metal phase again. And I'm very seasonal in my listening. In the winter I tend to listen to really majestic black metal stuff, really ambient ethereal stuff, because our here in northern Minnesota are crazy. They're like super snowy, super dark, beautiful. It's amazing. And then in the spring, when it finally, like it's almost June and we're just now getting buds, and we had snow last week, but once the spring finally comes, it's like the most amazing experience because we've been waiting for it for so long. And the first time I saw a freaking dandelion pop up in my grass, and I was like, holy shit, because it kind of feels like, wow, it's really happening,
Yep.
And so that kicks off a listening phase, and all of a sudden I'm listening to more upbeat music. And I know it's like in the spring, I listen to tons of Cascadian black metal, and I listen to tons of crust, and I listen to tons of anarcho-punk. And then in the summer, when everything is alive and vibrant, I listen to loads of death metal. And then in the fall, I'm listening to dark metal, doom, and ambient stuff. And it goes in the seasonal cycle. And so I'll find records and I kind of stash them for, it's like rodents, like I have little caches of things set aside for when I'm going to listen to it later. And unfortunately, because of the way that independent music works, you may not get a chance to get that record later on. It's gone. And so it's almost like you have to kind of like always be watching, like, am I going to be, am I going to want to be into this later? Am I going to miss my chance to have it and then have to buy it on Discogs for twice the price?
Yep.
Yeah, that is an issue.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And so yeah, like that's part of the reason that like I'm very vigilant when it comes to my music consumption. I'm always looking for something, always listening, always looking for the next band that I'm just gonna fall in love with, and now I got to buy their shirt and their record, and it's how it goes, man. Collectors go.
You crack me up though, because your collection's so vast that you buy stuff and you squirrel things away and you forget it's there. I mean, you're like a squirrel. They hide their nuts and they don't remember where they put them. I mean, that's kind of what you do sometimes. Like, oh, I don't know, I had this one. Well.
Yep. Well, yeah, no, I've been collecting since I was 13 and I'm 43. So it's, it's an obsession. It's like, there's that American Splendor comic, the frame where like he's, Harvey Picar is like sitting on a park bench and he's like, is this what it's like being a junkie? And it's like, I've never had a drug problem, but I've had a record problem since I was 13.
Me too. Yeah.
Yep.
That's all I've ever spent my money on. I don't know what I would buy if I didn't collect records or music.
Yep.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
My parents always joked they never worried about me getting into drugs. Like, you spend all your money on records, you couldn't afford drugs.
Yeah.
That's what my kid's doing right now. I'm so psyched. I'm like, same thought. If he's too broke to buy drugs, it'll be great. And he is.
Yeah, I couldn't afford to be a junkie or an addict because I spent it all on wax.
Yeah, exactly. Far more rewarding than any 10-minute high, for sure. Well, awesome. Congratulations, guys. Alan, are you good?
Yeah, I'm good. It's been a good discussion. Very cool to hear kind of some of the behind the scenes stuff on the album. It's been a really fun one to listen to. It's grown very nicely. It's the kind of album where the first time you play it, you're hearing some different things. I was like, oh, okay, that's different. but each, it kind of sinks in nicely, listen after listen. So it's been a really strong grower of an album from play number one.
Yeah, it's definitely a grower, not a shower.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
But I like
was,
that too. I don't want to just play it once and be like, okay, solved it. It's nice, but there's not a lot of reason to go back and replay it. It's good enough that it's like, okay, I don't get it yet, so let me play it again. All right, I get a little bit more of it, but I know there's more stuff here. Let me visit it again.
Right.
Those are the albums that are really fun to spend time with.
All right.
Oh, Into the Wild, didn't they make a
Movie out of it
about that? But the guy who went out into the Alaskan wilderness and
lived in a bus.
Yeah, and then he foraged food that made him sick, and he couldn't get out.
He starved to death. Yeah.
Yeah, that was really brutal. It was really sad.
It is, Wade. The CDs are shipped. They're on their way from Europe, so they're not here yet, but they're coming. Everybody else, I don't know how the Panopticon shop is doing on their order packaging, but I'm about halfway through the pile, and hopefully by next week early, I'll have everything pretty damn close to being shipped. So thank you for your patience. Thank you. It's just been me and my kid every once in a while helping me.
Do you have them pick up all this stuff?
What's that?
Do they pick everything up from your house, or do you have to take it to the post office?
Oh, we take it to the post office.
Man, you always have to say sorry to the person behind you in line.
They know we go to the back door and back up the van and hand them a scan sheet and just start dumping the buckets into their big bins.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So we've been filling mail order. Beck manages all that. She's the merch sorceress, and she's been keeping all that going. We didn't post our records until after release date, just because we wanted people to buy it from the label. But Beck's been keeping on top of it, and it's the same thing with us. Like, Ely is this tiny town. Like, it's itty bitty town with a tiny little post office that's always in danger of shutting down. And we, I swear to God, it's hilarious when we come in. Like, there's a momentary eye roll from the people who work at the post office, but then they're like, well, this helps.
That's what I'm here for. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's such a small town. I mean, the more mail that can go through there, the better.
Yeah.
So, if you're coming to Minnesota, visit Ely.
It's awesome. Beautiful up there. Love it.
Yeah.
Yep. Love it. Yeah, folks, if you're in the U.S., you can either get it directly from Panopticon or you can get it from Beinrune, or if you live in Europe or over that way, get it through Nordvis. It's available there as well. So
we will have copies on tour this fall with Catharsis. So
that's right. I was going to mention that too. This fall, when is it October?
It's October, yeah. It's a little short mini tour, 5 days. We haven't announced the 5th. No, is it 6 days? 6 days. There's a show we haven't announced yet. We're playing in Maine, or we're adding a Portland, Maine show.
Nice.
So that should be really cool because we're playing the same place that we played last time we played in Portland, Maine. And we will be playing a different set list than what we played on the European run. We are pulling out some old stuff. One song we have never played live before. So we are going to do that, and that should be fun. We're going to finally play a song off the first album live.
Cool.
Yeah, we're going to play Flag Burner, Torchbearer.
Nice.
Oh, very nice.
Cool.
Yeah. I'm excited about it. It's crazy for me because, like, I know I've told this story to you guys before, but like my first Panopticon records were actually, weirdly enough, the debut and Collapse, because this was after tape trading and around the same time that you could burn CDs for your friends. But something else that we used to do is in the early generations of iPods, it was really easy to take files off of them as well as to put files on them from like multiple machines.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I discovered Panopticon, was because there was a guy in the back of my school bus when I was in the don't cringe and keel over. I was in the 7th grade. All right.
No, dude, it's always a dude at the back of the school bus. I had those guys too, except they're playing Def Leppard albums and, whatever Black Sabbath in the back of my bus.
Yeah. No, that's a cool bus.
Yeah, it's a cool bus.
Yeah.
And the guy's name was Swig. His nickname was Swig. No shit. I'm not lying. His
Yo,
name was
Swig, what you got for me today, boy?
You and Daryl, all your friends had like the best like delinquent nicknames ever.
I wouldn't say he was a friend. He was a guy that scared me. He looked like a fat Bruce Dickinson.
All of Daryl's friends are the exact same way.
Did he have blunt cut bangs?
He had the bowl cut with the long mullet. You know, he looked like a fat Bruce Dickinson. His name was Swig.
Like, is this guy going to beat me up, or is he going to hand me a creator record? I don't know.
Sick.
See here, TJ. I know Swig. Yeah, Gordon. His name is Gordon. Yeah, he scared the shit out of me when I was a kid on the bus, but he was always nice. He never, was a bully. But
You should try to find him again.
I used to see him, but I haven't seen him since my parents don't have the store anymore. I don't know. All right, everybody, go check out this thing. I'm not gonna say it
new
because I
Panopticon
Do
can't.
it. Just do it once. Do it once. Just
Hjemsøkte hjertet.
do it
This
once.
is det hjemsøkte. It's nothing. It's,
Close
I'm
enough,
partially.
yeah.
I'm an honorary Norwegian. Just ask Roger. He'll confirm. But
If it was in Finnish,
it'd be worse.
yeah,
It'd be even worse.
It would have like 15 A's.
You'd have to roll every R, really hard roll on all of it. Yeah. Yep. Right on. Well, everybody, since this was a concept record, Austin had the idea of doing a show on concept albums, which we may have done in the past.
We've
or
talked
maybe
about a
have
lot
not.
of them, but we never did dedicate a show to it. So, yeah,
Right.
very cool topic to focus in on.
Yeah. So, Charlie, since you're the youngest here, we're going to let you go first. Beauty before age.
All right. Well, so we had talked for a little while about this, and I was wondering if I should keep it mostly to metal, or if I should keep it mostly to not metal, or what I should do, because I come from a lot of like the prog rock side of things too.
That's okay.
I've got a couple of polls from
Hold on.
outside of metal.
Before you do that, actually, I think we should set this up a little bit more. Austin, you were talking on the phone today about how deep the idea of a concept record goes. What were some of the things you were talking about today? It isn't just necessarily a story about grandma and the tea. There's different ways we can kind of process the concept idea. Yep. Well, yeah. But where were we talking about today? I'll let you reiterate on that. You were saying how.
So I gotta walk inside real quick and grab my charger because my battery is draining.
This
faster
is
than I thought
rookie
it would.
mistake bullshit here.
I know. So I think it's important to acknowledge that it doesn't just have to be a story. Like sometimes it can be a concept like where it's dealing with an issue, like talking about a specific. Hang on just a second. It's right there. I see it. I'm gonna grab it. It's about like an album that is based entirely on an ideology. It could be about more than just like this is a story. It can be like this is an album that's about it's thematic. It can be about one philosophical issue and exploring different facets of that issue. It can be about a personal experience, like a year in your life. For example, like an album that I didn't include in this because it's just too much of a dead giveaway is the Valgiflister album, Femmensmarke. And Femmensmarke makes sense to me because, it's a concept record about a trip that Jan with his brother, where they went into the Norwegian wilderness and were alone out there for 10 days. And, sure, there's a story element to the record, but there's a story element to the record, but there's also like a personal aspect and introspection and looking at your life. That it's more than like well, this thing happened, then this thing happened, then this thing happened. It's, just in the same way that On the Subject of Mortality is a concept album, even though it's not telling a story as much as it is telling someone's perspective. So I think that that's important, because those things are all concept records. And so that kind of loosens the definition of what a concept album is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good point, Austin. I'm glad you brought that up at the start,
So
because everyone kind of
thematic
does.
elements.
Yeah, folks
follow
always
through the
kind of
whole
default.
album.
They default to the stories, but you're right. There are lots of albums that have a thematic concept that ties them together. It's just not a actual story.
That actually tees up my first choice pretty dang well.
Right on. See how I'm glad we got that in, because I knew we were missing something there for a second.
Yeah, because
Good catch,
part of
Marty.
what I wanted to talk about was exactly that. It's like there are bands that go into writing a record because they want to focus on a specific philosophical theme and emotional feeling. And something else that I think is really interesting is I would argue that some of the origin of concept records comes from this idea of programmatic music, which was when songwriters, composers, they started wanting musical instruments to make the sounds of things in the real world that at the time were kind of perceived as being beyond music, like flutes that sound like birds and rolling timpani to sound like thunder. And sometimes also wanting musical instruments and passages to make you think and feel like you're doing something in particular, like in a specific place or in a specific setting. So one of the most kind of famous classical examples of that is the work Pictures at an Exhibition by Modest Mussorgsky, which is literally about a specific exhibition of paintings that he went to, and the musical cues are supposed to feel like these actual literal paintings that he saw when he was in this one place. So weirdly enough, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, prog rock band from the 70s, of course, they made their own version of Pictures at an Exhibition, based on Modest Mussorgsky's telling, but also they wanted to like throw in other kind of cues to paintings that they saw when they were at the Louvre or something like that. I can't remember the exact story, but this is like the one concept record I chose that's not actually a story, because I just think it's so interesting to be like, oh, well, here's music that evokes the feeling of being in a specific space in a specific museum and like looking at other pieces of art. It's almost like a musical interpretation of paintings in a weird way. And then, yeah, I just pulled the Emerson, Lake and Palmer version of it because that's the one that I have. And I actually don't think this album's that good, but it is interesting and kind of weird gatefold artwork design. So yeah, that's my first choice. And I'm going to start outside of the realm of metal and probably move slowly towards it. So
Yeah, very cool.
Emerson, Lake and Palmer, everybody.
All right. Austin.
So I stayed within the realm of metal, but I will start with my least metal choice. And I will start with a band. It's metal adjacent. It is heavy, very heavy, but it's a punk band. And this also brings about another thing that I think we should talk about, which is concept bands. Bands that it's not just the concept record, but it's also the band is about a thing, a specific thing. For example, somebody just said Lulu is a concept record. Oofta. And I think Fall of the Fruffa is a
What
great
did you just
example.
call me?
Fall of the Fruffa. The Alex, who did vocals on Woodland Caribou. This was his first foray and, his first like well-known band. And it follows Watership Down. It builds on the story of Watership Down, but expands the mythology of the band. And each record, the cool thing about it was that they worked backwards. They worked from the end, and then the final record was kind of the beginning. And with each record, they got less crust focused and more post metal focused. And everything. Somebody said, "Oh God, not the rabbits."
That was Alan.
Yeah,
We just talked about Watership Down. What was it, last week?
Couple of weeks ago, everybody kind of
ago.
relived that trauma. Yeah.
Well, the rabbits become revolutionaries, and it's awesome. And it's just an incredible. I mean, I have a Watership Down or Fall of Ephrafa tattoo, and so does Beck. And this takes it to the extreme. Like, there's mythology, there's art, there's a language. I mean, there's so many depths of this concept. I mean, there's books that he has written and so much work that he's done. And the records are incredible. And in particular, the middle album, this one, Allele, is just phenomenal because there's so many facets of the music. It's more than just like the story, the Watership Down story. There's an intense focus on the politics, the ideology, animal rights struggle, like organization, or political organizing. It's so deep, and they were incredible live. Beck and I got to see them when their last U.S. show before they broke up. They played in Chicago, and we got to see them play, and it was just incredible. I mean, and he went on to do other amazing bands, and they're all concept bands. He has a band called Moro that's also a concept band. He has a band called Reef that's amazing. Archivist. There's been so many other projects. He even did a concept band that was based off of
the Dark Crystal.
Dark Crystal. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's cool when, I love when people can take things to this deeper level and they're using certain imagery to also express how they feel about the world. That's something that I really love. And I feel like Fall of Ephrafa really nails it. I mean, it's the whole package. And, and what I love about the ending of Inlay, the final record, and I didn't think about this until a couple days ago when I was brewing and I was listening to the record. It ends with the intro to the first record, which is kind of what we did. On the ending of Ghost Eyes and the Firelight ends with the beginning of Vanagon Into the Light. And I was listening and I was like, holy shit, they do that cello line that's at the beginning of Alzla. And I love when so much thought goes into when so much thought goes into writing process. It shows that you're really taking this seriously and you're not just shitting stuff out, So yeah, Fall of Ephrafa, it's great. You should listen to it. It's awesome. And there's lots of D beats, which is always fun.
Always fun. All right, Alan.
As long as they're not burying the bunnies alive again, it's all good. All right, let's see.
There's definitely some bunny brutality on those records, unfortunately.
All right, I'm going to follow Charlie's lead and start a little bit outside of metal, and we'll rapidly work into metal as well. But I was thinking, concept albums have a history before heavy metal. I think heavy metal's been a really good style to make use of that type of writing. Heavy metal likes to focus on these escapisms, and part of that quickly becomes storytelling. But genres like prog rock were doing it before that. And for an example of that, I pulled this off the shelf. Genesis, The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
I did not pull that record because I knew you guys would.
Fair enough. I don't know the album inside and out. Y'all can probably go deeper on this than I can, but it's an interesting one. It is not an easy listen, but it's Genesis really going deep, not just on a weird, story. It's very symbolic. A lot of personal discovery and revelation told through like kind of a very psychedelic lens. But it's a weird moment in Genesis's catalog too, which I'm not an expert in by any means. I like them. I find them interesting. I'm not one of the super fans that can tell you every little detail. But it's the last album with Peter Gabriel. It was kind of the first album that also was controversial for the band. There were a lot of fans who did not like it. And to this day, it tends to be kind of a divisive album. It's a double album. And a lot of people's review seems to boil down to it's pretty good at first, but then you get to that second album and folks kind of lose the plot along the way. But it's also a point for Genesis where they change from their previous kind of, the earlier stuff has that pastoral vibe that you also get from like early Pink Floyd, where they're writing from. And this album is much more urban. They intentionally wrote the main character to be somebody from New York City because they wanted it to have this more urban darkness to it. They didn't want like another idyllic, country meadow next to some river in the UK kind of vibe going on. It's an interesting concept. It's really out there. They, of course, Peter Gabriel used all kinds of costumes and stuff to help convey the story. So it became a big, stage production for when they toured it. It's not an easy listen, though. I'll be honest. If you're not familiar with Genesis, don't start with this one. That's not the way to try to introduce yourself to their early catalog. Pick any album from before this and start with one.
My first touch with them was Land of Confusion, that whole era of MTV where it was Phil Collins led and Miami Vice type dress up type, clothing and puppets, and I mean it's still catchy and good. It's
okay for that.
And then
style.
going back and hearing the Peter Gabriel stuff, I'd like, oh wow, this was a different caliber of artistic involvement for sure.
Completely different vehicle. But
Phil Collins was such a phenomenal drummer.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, just unreal.
Yeah, incredible.
I love that album so much that I actually stole a PhD dissertation hard copy from my library at my college about the meaning of the Lamb List Broadway, because it hadn't been checked out for like 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I just said, you know what?
Very cool.
All right. Well, great start. And it's, embarrassing for me to show what I'm showing next because everybody's showing such deep and meaningful concepts. And I'm coming at you with Kiss, Music from the Elder.
Yes! I fucking love that album. Love that album.
People, the band, thumbs their nose up at this. The fans thumb their nose up. I love this record. Always have. It's Kiss's attempt at they wanted to be seen as serious in the eyes of their peers. And, they let, Bob Ezrin talk them into, Bob Ezrin at this point in his life was having severe cocaine issues and, started whispering in Gene's ear that you could make a movie out of this. You could be, you like doing the movies. This is it. This is Kiss time to be seen as serious, artistic, mature. And I think honestly, if this was received high accolades, I think Kiss would be like, yeah, this is what we meant to do this. And this is, yeah, exactly. But it wasn't that way. So they poo-poo this record, but this is basically the Elder. The Elders are like this immortal class. And there's a boy that comes up. I don't know. The whole story is kind of, it's so weird how it goes back and forth between what are you doing, Austin?
Oh, hold it up again, Marty.
Yeah. There's a story here but what I do like a lot about it is the way the album flows. There are moments of just Kiss. You could tell it's Kiss. And there's also really, orchestrated moments too, where, Paul Stanley is really living just on the cusp of his high-end range. The falsetto is pushed to the max, and you could tell if this took off, he would have struggled doing this live. But, this always has been one of those atmospheric, enchanting records for me. There you go. Lee, cheers, brother. I know we're Kiss brothers, intertwined in the cosmos for sure. But yeah, this is the first concept album I guess I ever really paid attention to. You know, did this get the accolades that Meatloaf did? The same era? Nope, didn't happen. It's because it was Kiss, and Kiss was always seen as the fun time rock and roll band, singing about inappropriate things and partying and rock and roll. And here they are with a sci-fi fantasy type piece of a boy, you know, going on to fight Mr. Blackwell, the evil genius that is trying to, I don't know. There's a story here. I don't care. To me, it's just a really well done Kiss record that is them living outside of their comfort zone for once. And although it was awkward, I think they did a fairly good job for the tools they had and what they had, you know, built their whole careers up doing. So, yep, that's my first pull. Music from the Elder, Kiss. Charlie,
So good.
I'm
So
glad
good.
you like that stuff as well. I'm surprised. Color me a bit surprised, but
Well, so the thing that you have to understand about me is that I missed the boat entirely on Kiss. And so that album was oddly enough my gateway in, probably because I was just like a contrarian with them at that point. But yeah. All right. So for my next cut, I'm going to go for
they're definitely an old guy band.
Yeah.
You had to be there. You know, I saw them in 77, 78 on TV, and they got me into music. So
I do remember though, you know, Kiss was also one of the main reasons that I got in a fight with my roommate back in Austin was because me and my other roommate got like blackout hammered and were just screaming "Lick It Up" over and over and over again. And my roommate had a dog that was a Dachshund Chihuahua Blue Heeler mix, whose brain was just like scrambled eggs. He would just like howl along to us just screaming at the dog, drunk as hell. And my other roommate's like trying to sleep because it's like, 3 a.m.
Great
Comes
record
out
too.
and
Lick It Up
screams at us.
rules. Great record.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah.
All right, so my other foray outside of the realm of prog even, we're going to step a little bit further out. I've actually pulled out 2 concept records that I'm going to talk about at the same time to spare everybody. But these are probably the first concept records that I ever heard. They are near and dear to my heart, and I think that to this day they're some of my favorite records ever made. That is going to be Willie Nelson with these 2 records. The one in front is Red-Headed Stranger.
Classic.
It's a story about a cowboy going across the countryside and falling in love, making mistakes. It even has this really cool back panel with like sketches of like storyboard stuff and
That's cool.
kind of like illustrating elements of the song. Yeah, this is an original copy. And what's really interesting about this too is that compared to a lot of other concept records that are blown out, maximum production, this was basically a demo record. Very similar to the story of how Sleep's Holy Mountain got released.
Mm-hmm.
The record label, which I believe is Columbia, CBS, yeah, Columbia through CBS. They were not really very excited on what Willie Nelson was doing before, during, or after this record. But they basically just took a chance on it because he had a contract with them. He was very stubborn about putting this out. And it actually wasn't even a huge success at the time. It went on to become a, legacy album as the years went on. But it was not very warmly received when it came out. The playing is crude. The production is extremely dry and intimate. But it's all those things that make it a standout in his catalog, as well as the fact that it's almost like a spaghetti Western. I mean, just look at the drama in some of those little illustrations. It's so good. Really, really immaculate record. One of my favorites of all time. But outdoing it just ever so slightly, this would probably be my favorite concept record of all time. Phases and Stages from 1974. It's actually the precursor to Red-Headed Stranger. This is the middle of a Willie Nelson unofficial trilogy that starts with Shotgun Willie and ends with Red-Headed Stranger. This is the only album that I think Willie Nelson has ever put out where he actually wrote every single song, which is another thing that makes it unique. That sounds like, well, okay, what a poser. Like, he doesn't even write his own albums, but in the realm of country music, that just wasn't a thing. You got, Waylon Jennings putting out records that are entirely written by other people and getting all the acclaim for it. So for Willie Nelson to put this out with all original tunes in the 70s was a huge deal. And it's also one of those concept records that's tied to the physical format. Side A is all from the perspective of a man who's having an affair on his wife and how their marriage falls apart. And then side B is about his ex-wife finding her independence again, getting through the motions of the divorce, getting through the affair, and then going on to kind of like find her own spirit again. It's beautiful. And it's also a record that ties through like musical motifs that come back and again and again and again. And also kind of like that programmatic music element I was talking about, where albums can sometimes try to evoke certain places or things that are not purely musical and they're not abstract, but like places that we can go to. Both of these records have really awesome moments where Willie's sister, Bobby, she's a pianist. She passed away a couple years ago. She actually starts playing these like honky-tonk ragtime saloon pieces in specific moments in the stories where the characters are walking into saloons. Really interesting.
That's
and
cool.
It really feels authentic and legit, like you're walking in. So it's like these musical moments where it's like an entertaining number that's supposed to be like, oh, okay, yeah, now we're at the bar. And they're dancing around. And it's, I don't know, it's just like really interesting that they can actually like create that sort of space with the authentic music that was in those spaces. Brilliant records, brilliant songwriting, brilliant lyricism. Willie Nelson, near and dear to my heart. Two of my favorite records of all time. Absolutely check them out if you can. Original copies are expensive now, but you can still pick up CDs and represses relatively easily. So,
all right. I grew up on Willie Nelson.
So phases and changes that, you know, I was never a huge Willie fan until Charlie and I started spending a lot of time together. And that was one of the records that he turned me on to that I really appreciated. Also, I saw somebody who was mentioning Chris Christopherson, and he, you know, while he didn't do concept records, his songs were concepts. His, you know, I love that, you know,
Me and Bobby McGee was his song, and
absolutely, yeah. and Duvalier's Dream and Casey's Last Ride. These songs were movies in themselves, and Chris was, you know, I mean, hail, you know, to him, one of my favorite songwriters of all time, and really blew my mind. That being said, I'm going to beat Charlie to the punch, and I'm going to go ahead and show my and Still Life.
Damn it!
And the reason, and you can show them too. But sure. The reason why is I feel like, especially those two records, the concept piece there is so intense, especially with My Arms, Your Hearse. That record was such a huge influence on me. In fact, I mean, that was really, those records are kind of the records that made me fall in love with concept records. And most of my albums have been concept records because I love this idea of like sinking your teeth into something and taking a whole album to digest it. And My Arms, Your Hearse is amazing because, you know, that record was written before what's the Bruce Willis film, The Sixth Sense, which is basically the same idea, but as a Hollywood movie. And Nicola Okerfeldt like did it before him, before that film came out. Both of those records have really incredible stories, and they're very focused lyrically on the narrative while not losing the plot in the songs. And I think they're both incredible albums. I think they're incredible achievements. And to me, they're the pinnacle of what Opeth did. Especially, I mean, you know, I mean, dude, Still Life is like, it's an amazing story. It's a brilliant story. And My Arms, Your Hearse is a brilliant story too. Like, they're both incredible. I think they're great records. I think it's the best era of the band. That's really all I have to say about them. If you're a fan, you know the story, you know how it goes. It's very complex. In fact, I was explaining the concept to Beck because, you know, she likes Opeth a lot, that era specifically, but we had never like fleshed out what the stories were about. And I was explaining it to her, and my kids were in the room, Håkan and Rune, were in the room, and they were like, "I want to see that movie." I'm like, "It's not a movie; it's an album," you know. And so that's when you know you did it right. When you want to see the movie, you know. So yeah, and great records.
Absolutely.
All right, Alan.
All right. Marty, for this next one, I'll need your help for a moment.
Okay.
All right. Now look, I know we've got so much to do, but I know you won't refuse. So here.
Can't see it. Oh.
Here.
14, 17, 18, 38, 67. I don't get it.
Take this number and welcome.
Oh.
Yeah, it's been mentioned a lot in the chat, and it's one of the concept albums of all concept albums in metal, so we have to touch on Operation Mindcrime by Queensryche. It's, this band had such an incredible run of records early in their career.
Yeah.
Kind of built up to this moment, and where do you go from there? Well, you go in different directions. But everything here works. This album does something that, for me, is really important with concept albums. If you're doing a story-based one, at least, first off, you have to tell the story well. You should be able to listen to the album, read the lyrics, whatever, and be able to kind of put together what the story is about, which you can with this one, but it is challenging. They don't just spoon feed it to you. You kind of have to put some things together, but the story is there. So it gets that part right. The other thing, though, is that the songs really still need to stand up well on their own. If a song only works as like a filler for this particular moment in the story, but it doesn't really work as a standalone song, that can be a problem. Some albums tell a great story, but each individual song by itself is not interesting. The really, really good concept albums that I go back to do both of those things. And Queensryche's Operation Mindcrime does both. You can listen to any given song off of this by itself. You need no knowledge of the story. You don't need to know that it's part of a story even. You can just be like, damn, that's a really good song. But then you can put it together with all the other components, and you've got a really amazing concept album. We don't need to pick apart the story here. We don't need to talk about the follow-up efforts that have been done, Operation Mindcrime 2, and is there a part 3 already, or is that about?
Yeah, that's out. Jeff Tate released that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it had actually dropped
Like,
or not.
Yeah, I don't know if it's out yet. I think it is actually out.
I think you're right, but yeah, that's sure. Somebody can let me know if it's good or not. I probably won't check it out. But the original is one of those landmark albums, and it's also a case where, even though, it's something of a challenging story and a longer album, it's also the album that really broke them from being a big metal band to being just a big band. This was the album that everybody was going nuts over, even if they weren't really into particularly heavy music. I remember, girls in my math class in intermediate school would have, Mindcrime t-shirts and just be like, oh, that's cool. They listened to nothing like that style of music for anything else, but that band and that album got their attention. So yeah, it's low-hanging fruit for a topic like this, but you do have to hit some of the highlights, and Mindcrime is definitely a highlight when it comes to concepts. So,
I've actually never heard that record.
It's good.
It is extremely good. Yep.
Yeah, I need to listen to it. I the only Queensryche record that I own is Warning, and I love that record.
Warning's fantastic. Yep.
Yeah. I love
Rage
it.
for Order is also a great record.
Rage is.
Yeah.
I actually like Rage slightly better than Mindcrime. I'm in the minority there, and I'm okay with that. But yeah, all three of those albums are top-notch stuff.
Yeah.
But your turn, Marty. What you got next?
All right. Well, this is a favorite, 100%. Blood on Ice by
I
Battery.
knew you'd pick it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I left it out.
It's funny how, Corthon floated the idea that this was just, an idea laying around in his closet because it really sounds the best. I mean, there's some weirdness in some of the percussion, but that was always kind of a thing. He'd go to a drum machine eventually or a computer or a keyboard with drums on. I don't know what he would do, and then try to say, oh no, it was a real drummer. You know, he lied about everything just to keep the mystery, the enigma going down the road. But this record was really special. Out of all the Viking era albums, this is my favorite. The story is killer. The music is so good. I mean, he even came out and did admit that he was heavily influenced by Manowar, and you can hear it once he said that word. It's like, oh man, I can hear Manowar all over this stuff. So yeah, very bombastic rhythms or riffs, melody lines, and he's doing a really good job with his voice singing here too. And when you get Twilight of the Gods record is definitely he struggled a lot with his voice, but here it's.
You ever notice how he kind of sounds like Cartman?
Kinda.
Yeah.
He's really struggling. He's really struggling on that record for sure.
But I love it. I love that record.
Yeah, this record is the Wood Woman is one of his best, in The Lake. The song The Lake is the most triumphant, epic song he ever did. 1000%.
Incredible.
Yeah, I mean, there are some songs that get real close to that on the Nordland albums 1 and 2, and the way he went out, he finally perfected his sound. He got the production right. He got the songs right. His voice sounds good. Within, it sounds like Horthon. So, I mean, those were concept records too I could have pulled as well. But this one for me is a crowning achievement in a very long and influential catalog. He revolutionized, what would become second wave black metal. And then he also set the Viking metal ship down the channel as well. So this record, and basically it's a tale. It feels like the Odyssey, but with Norse gods, and it's great. It's absolutely great. 100%. You got the Christian Wallen, the Necrolord cover artwork. Of course, it's blue. That's usually his signature.
Love it.
Mm-hmm.
Might be my favorite of his album covers, honestly.
Yep. But I
think Nordland is definitely my favorite of his album covers, like Bathory and Christian Wallen. I love that painting. I think it's incredible.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, this is an absolute favorite and never gets old. And again, The Lake is still one of those songs, and that comes on. The chorus hits with the choir behind him singing along. I throw my eyes into the lake. Oh my God. Chills, hairs stand up, all
Amazing.
of it. What hairs are left, they're standing straight up when that hits.
They still got to sew this bootleg on.
Oh, dude. I might sneak into your house and steal it. That thing
it's
rules.
Like gray and faded. I don't know what they did with like the silver tone on the black, but that'll be cool. Coming to a vest near you soon.
Right on. All right. Charlie, you're up.
All right. Well, I'm going to keep going with metal, actually. And, so many to choose from. I'm going to talk about a record that we all know is coming. If you picked up on either of the names in the Magenta Idol and Chainsaw Charlie, this is an album that always blows me away and surprises me. And I actually went to the record store and got a physical copy today because I didn't want to talk about anything I didn't have in my collection personally. But I've been a fan of this record for a long time. Was very glad to pick up Wasps, The Crimson Idol.
Rules. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Wow. There is no universe in which I should be into this album. It's Blackie Lawless, completely unhinged.
And egotistical.
Yeah. The rest of the band, you guys would know this story better than me about what happened with the band right before this record. This is basically, from what I understand, a solo Blackie Lawless record. Right?
Almost, yeah. It comes close to that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just it's some of the best performances of any Wasp record. You got the drummer from Quiet Riot for this one album, I think. Is that right?
I'd have to double check. It sounds right. Because, it was some guys had to be kind of brought together quickly.
And it's great. This actually, when I listen to this, it reminds me of Bathory in the same way that Bathory reminds me of Manowar and Wasp with Blood on Ice. There's an intensity and a passion and a sincerity to every single moment on this album that just it's chilling. And it's so funny that I can say that about something that Blackie Lawless did. Because I just don't fuck with him at all. Fuck that guy. But what a great album. The concept record is about a middle child who's not very well loved by his parents. Everybody thinks that he's a failure compared to his older brother. And then his older brother dies in a car accident. And that sends him down a spiral of shame because he can never replace his brother and his family. He gets into drugs and booze, basically breaks into a guitar shop, steals a guitar, and tells himself that he's going to become like a rock star. And that's exactly what he does. It's a tragedy in the end. You know, he's basically the entire time just trying to win back the affection and love and to have his parents be proud of him. And there's this moment that happens in the story where things don't go the way that he wants it to. And it's really interesting that this record, for being from a band that was so popular on a major label, that they don't try to cap it off with any kind of a happy ending. They dedicate themselves to the tragedy, and it lands. And it's a fucking Wasp album. Like, I'm so sorry. It's just,
I love Wasp. I don't, I'm not a big fan of some things, but his voice rules, and he's a great songwriter.
God, and his voice on this is absolutely insane. I mean, it almost
So good.
sounds like Blind Guardian at times.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, this is a really surprising and incredible and heartfelt and epic record in the same way that Blood on Ice is at times. So, highly recommend this to anybody that's never checked it out. One more time, it's Wasp's Crimson Idol. Beautiful.
Yep. That's a great pick, Charlie. Yeah, the only thing that album does wrong is he went back to that well a couple of times later on with the whole Neon God Part 1 and Part 2.
Yep.
Which is the same story with psychic powers added.
Yeah. And
not the best idea.
I haven't checked out that, was that the soundtrack to the Crimson Idol thing that he dropped in 2018? Yeah, I don't know. He's like continued, kind of like Jeff Tating it, just keeps going back and digging up a dead corpse.
Yep.
But yeah, no, you're exactly right about that album. It's a very intense, and it's always been. I don't know if Blackie ever flat out confirmed it, but most people always read between the lines that it was very semi-autobiographical for him.
Yeah. It's an incredible record.
All right. Austin.
So I will do the most recent Devil trilogy. I love, in particular, the Tonga Sombrio Noten. This record, I think, is the best of them. Thoughts That Ride the Night. But the whole trilogy is it's kind of this nighttime exploration, and the sound of the records are very nighttime and very dark, and it's got this kind of hypnotic quality, and the three records are inextricably connected in their themes, in their imagery, and then the final Not to End is the night, the end of the night, or the night ends. It draws it to a conclusion, and I love how the records are sonically linked, but they kind of explore different facets of like this kind of nostalgic 90s black metal. And the weird thing about that band in particular was that I actually wasn't like a huge fan of those guys. I mean, I had some of their stuff and it was okay, and I was like, all right, yeah, fine. But then I saw them play. I was in Bergen for Beyond the Gates, and I saw them play, and the singer for Vanwood has been singing for them for these last three records, and until Tron passed away, and I just loved the thematic elements and how it all flowed into itself, and it brought back this kind of early to mid 90s black metal feeling, like the same kind of feeling that I got from in the Nightside Eclipse. And I just think it's so cool that they followed this theme for three albums, and they're incredible records, especially Talking Somebody or Nothing. That record is phenomenal. I mean, that record is as good as anything that came out in the mid 90s. Phenomenal trilogy. And I know that there's a fourth record that's not part of the trilogy. There's something else coming, and I'm really excited to hear it. It's sad it's sad that it's sad that he passed, but yeah, those records rule, and I love the exploration, taking 3 albums to explore an idea all the way to its logical end.
Right on.
Great albums.
Yep. Alan.
All right, another pretty obvious one, but they have to come up when discussing concept albums. Sabotage went through a string of concept albums during the 1990s. Their 80s albums are great, but as the decade rolled over, they hooked up, with a new songwriting team and started putting together, some extremely good concept albums. Not everybody likes that kind of more Broadway aspect that came into the albums, but the first several of them are still extremely well done. The one I picked to show off here is their 96 album, Dead Winter Dead. And the concept of this is the Bosnia and Herzegovina War, which was pretty one-sided. You've got a concept album here that focuses a lot around genocide. And it's put together, in a very, tasteful and, very emotional way. The first several songs, the album kind of starts the story talking about, this, huge air of hope that swept across Eastern Europe and the earliest 90s. The Iron Curtain is down. And the songs, they're very bright and uplifting. They really convey this sense of hope that people in those countries had. But by track 3 or 4, the songs get darker. They're starting to, talk about the tensions that are coming to the surface, people picking up arms against one another. And, the tale plays out from there. So it's a very, heavy and dark topic for a metal band to tackle. And they tackled this basically at the time it was happening. This isn't like, 20 years later, we'll revisit it from a historical perspective. This came out in the mid-90s when that was still front page news that very few people paid much attention to, sadly. But, it also follows, there's a little bit more of a character-driven story too. It's got a slight Romeo and Juliet thing to it where there are, 2 kids kind of on opposite sides that eventually decide just to lay down their guns and run off together. It's not heavily sappy romance. It's just like, why am I trying to kill you? Why are you trying to kill me? Let's just get the fuck out of here. Screw this. And you don't know where they go or what happens to them. They leave it kind of open-ended, which works for the story. But yeah, I was always impressed that Sabotage was willing to tackle something this heavy. It's their concept albums early on, were very emotional and very well written that way. Even just little touches to it, like the CD artwork, being basically just barbed wire with red lighting. The quotes, they just put for little bits of the packaging on the inside of the booklet cover. You have the Stalin quote that, 1 death is a tragedy, 1 million deaths is a statistic, which is how a lot of people view such events when they play out. Later concept albums by the band, they did eventually run out of ideas. And kind of like when we were talking about Wasp a few minutes ago, they did start kind of recycling the same basic story on a couple of the final albums. But with albums like Streets and Dead Winter Dead, they put together some very strong and, I would dare say, very powerful concept albums. Even if folks didn't feel like the music was as heavy as it used to be, no, it wasn't. It was doing something different, and it was doing it very, very well. So I really like that period of Sabotage. They did some of the best concept work in metal.
Agreed. Good stuff. All right, next up, we're going to Sweden with a classic, Edge of Sanity's Crimson.
Mm-hmm.
This is, it's funny. This is, it's supposed to be 140-some minute long song, but there are breaks and, movements within the track that make it feel like one song ends and another starts. Otherwise, it wouldn't be on Flip the Record on one song. It's, not the best. But basically, this is Dan Sueno kind of takes reins of the band and kind of moves them into we're going to do this. We're going to write a one long song, very proggy, but yet still very strong. There's still a death metal foundation to it. The melody lines, they feel like a cross between prog and metal. It's very cool. The way that he keeps your interest moving along the 40 some minutes. I can't remember. Oh yeah. The concept on this was post-apocalyptic story set in the future where humanity is on the brink of extinction because women can no longer have children. So there's a lot of political and social ties all mixed into the idea of this. And there's a king and there's a whole storyline. It's very interesting. I interviewed him back in the day on the phone. Super nice dude. And just endlessly talented. And I really like how he brought his obvious prog love and upbringing into metal. He kind of did things to advance the genre ahead a little bit. We weren't hearing a lot of prog mixed with death metal at the time. So, inspired bands like Opeth and a bunch of others as well that have, continued on. And of course, speaking of Opeth, on Crimson 2, Ackerfeld does all the brutal vocals on this album. Again, it's a cool album. It's not as good as the first one, although is that one melodic refrain that does spin throughout the tracks on this one too to call back to the first Crimson album. So it's cool. And, of course, Ackerfeld's voice is killer. It's just great. He's a great addition. Dan went through this time where he just didn't want to do brutal vocals anymore because it hurt. And he felt there were other people that did it better than him, but yet he would still come back and do it, like in the project Witherscape, which I loved Witherscape. It was like his take on the Opeth aesthetic, but I loved it. I really, really enjoyed, especially the second album. Really great.
I wonder if there's a connection to the film Children of Men. I was just looking that up.
Maybe.
Which is kind of comparable.
Yeah.
Women can't have babies anymore. There's a fertility crisis in the UK, and I wonder if there's a connection.
Could have been. Yeah. Yeah, so that's it. Crimson, Edge of Sanity. And Charlie is back.
Okay. So, staying in the realms of metal, this is really just an excuse to talk about a band that I love a lot. But this is technically a concept album. One of my guilty pleasures is the band Menhir from the Thuringia realm of Germany. And this is their last CD, which I finally completed my Menhir collection with. Got this actually when we were on tour. We were in Germany at a festival and they had this on CD. This comes with the Barditus demo, but the main meat and potatoes here is the album Hildebrandslid or Lied. It is a full concept record about, I guess, German history. I couldn't even tell you the whole thing's in German, but I just really wanted to talk about a record that I love. This band is great. Are they cheesy? Absolutely. It's like this weird kind of Bathory meets a little bit of death and roll, meets a little bit of pagan folk metal. It's a little bit cheesy, but also just the songs get in, they get out, and if they're over 6 minutes long, they justify it really well. I don't know if this is my favorite record of theirs, but it's a really good one. So for anybody that has not heard Menhir, this is a brilliant record. This is a good place to start too. Yeah, I don't have much more to say about that. The whole thing's in German and I've never bothered to translate it. So
I think the main guy, I think his name is like Stegel or something like that. He is also in Odrerir, which is like a concept band. It's like Viking reenactment stuff. And they did a concept record, Godelieder 1 and 2, which are both incredible albums. I should have added them to my list, but I did not.
I have to check those out.
If you enjoy those, I love Godelieder 1. It's magical. It's like if Nordland had continued in that sound, but then had like choral arrangements through the whole record. It's that Odrerir album, Godelieder 1, is amazing. It's beautiful Viking metal record and very nostalgic for me.
I've never heard of that. I
will send it to you. I think you'll love it. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's got all kinds of like kind of fiddle parts that are trying to sound like Hardanger fiddle on it, and yeah, you'll love it, dude. Absolutely.
Sick.
All right, Austin.
So I'm gonna go with Skagos, Ast, and also Anarchic, which is these two records are back to back. Ast is focused on this like winter going into summer, and then Anarchic is summer going into winter, and they're both conceptually linked in the way that the seasons make you feel. And Anarchic is like describing the freedom that you feel in the warm months, and these two records really encompass those feelings. And it's funny because I was talking to Ray from Skagos today about this, and like kind of like, you know, I'd always thought that they were concept records because they felt that way, and they were ideologically, you know, like sequenced, and you know the art, the feeling, everything. And he confirmed it. He was like, yes, they are concept albums. It's the only two concept records that they've done under the Skagos name, and this is the only one that I have on wax. But it is such an amazing record. It's kind of a definitive Cascadian black metal album. If you're a fan of the sound, if you like bands like Returning and Fauna and Wolves in the Throne Room, I feel like this is a must-have. It's an incredible, incredible, incredible record. And Bindrune is putting out a vinyl version of Anarchic this year. So Marty gave me the go-ahead that we could talk about that now.
Yeah, mention it.
And Skagos is working on new stuff as well. That is, to me, that is the best of the Cascadian black metal genre. They are hands down my favorite. So yeah, Ast is an amazing record. If you haven't spent time with it and you like that type of black metal, this kind of hypnotic, deep, thoughtful, like kind of get lost in it type stuff, Ast and Anarchic both they're definitely, you know, coming to a fire pit near you, you know, like, you know, incredible records. So
Coming to a fire pit near you.
yeah, that's
Yep.
that's how I love to listen to them, like sitting out by the fire, and just incredible, amazing records. Ast is super nostalgic for me, and yeah, check them out, listen to them, they're great.
All right, Ellen.
All right. I'll jump to a different genre of heavy metal this time. I think Mike Ducey mentioned this one in the chat a while ago. It was his favorite concept album, and it is an extremely good one. It is Deceased with Fearless Undead Machines.
Great record. Yep.
When there is no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth.
Yep.
And for about 70 minutes, they have a good go of it on this album for sure. Yeah, this was the Deceased album where Deceased really found their sound. You know, the previous material, a lot of it's quite good and fun, but you always had the sense that the band hadn't quite figured out what they were going to do just yet. And with this album, everything falls into place. It all comes together and clicks. And it's always a little surprising that they did that on a roughly 70-minute long concept album. The concepts, you know, they take parts from different zombie trilogies that they've enjoyed, kind of put them together in their own unique way. So, you know, you've got a little bit of, you know, the Romero style zombies. And, you know, it includes some of like, you know, the whole, you know, psychic powers. You know, here's a concept album that does psychic powers correctly, Blackie Lawless. Yeah, you know, they incorporate, you know, some of that angle. You know, they talk about it also, you know, like with the different perspectives. You know, there are parts that touch on the kind of, you know, religious implications of zombies coming back, and there are parts that, you know, touch on how do you try to approach this scientifically? Can you really approach it from that kind of, you know, very clinical aspect when it's obviously a very illogical thing that's happening? Does that make any sense to even try to do? So they work a lot more into it. It's not just a two-dimensional zombie story with, you know, groan, ugh, chew on some guts and rinse, repeat. They actually put together a really cool album throughout it. It holds up incredibly well over time as well. They've never really tried something else on that scale before. But after this, Deceased knew what they wanted to do. The albums that come after have been great, but they stick to this same kind of style where they just found the right blend of their influences. King and company, of course, they love traditional heavy metal. They love death metal. There's a thrashiness to it as well. They got the ingredients blended correctly and came up with a hell of a fun concept album in the process. So, Deceased, Fearless Undead Machines. Best zombie movie you've never seen.
All right. Next up, Manila Road, The Deluge. This concept revolves around the rise and fall of Atlantis and the ultimate destruction of Atlantis. Another fantastic record by Manila Road. Classics on here: Divine Victim, The Deluge, of course. It's just another great record from start to finish, and love the cover artwork as well. Really great. They're another one of those bands. I'm like, does Manila Road have a straight up concept record? And I guess there's some loose concepts going on Crystal Logic as well, but I didn't know if that information was exactly correct. But this one here is loosely based around the rise and fall of Atlantis. And, this is one of America's most unique bands. And I'm glad they got a second shot of life and were able to tour the world and see the impact their music had, not just here, but probably more so over in Europe. But it's just great for a band from Kansas to go out and kick so much ass. Great band, one of my favorites.
Yeah, they touched on concepts here and there. The Atlantis Rising album has a crazy story concept to it. Might be another one I'm forgetting too.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right. Sorry. Charlie.
Oh, you're good. All right. So I'm going to go. This is another record that I feel like you could argue is like proto metal in a lot of ways. Maybe not really. It's more of a rock record. But I think that this is a record that a lot of people here would enjoy and appreciate. And I'm sure a lot of you know it already. If we're talking about Kiss, I think it's okay to also talk about Alice Cooper. Welcome to My Nightmare. Brilliant record. It feels almost like a King Diamond album in terms of the story that it weaves about nightmares and dreams, and almost like Friday the 13th or something like that. Like it's very cosmic, but also psychedelic and just good theatrics. I'm not a huge Alice Cooper guy, but I've been a fan of this for many, many years. Got a friend that used to play this all the time in our house. There's great singles on this. Like, to Alan's point, this is one of those records where not only is the overall concept really engaging and entertaining, but a lot of these individual songs really, really stand on their own. It's not overstaying its welcome either, like a lot of other concept records from the mid 70s tend to do. It's an in and out affair. It's really tight lyrically, really tight musically, all over the place in terms of the sonics, some great drum production, some really heavy moments too. Maybe not metal heavy, but bombastic, loud playing. It's really entertaining. It's great. I throw this on I wouldn't say every Halloween, but I throw it on whenever I throw on King Diamond and Merciful Fate. It just lives in that world for me as a slightly less metal cousin. And again, I think this record is 1975. So awesome album. Love it.
All right. Austin.
So I'm going to go with Godard. This album, Till all the Heimsen Sender. This is a really deep concept record. I love this album. I love this band. Full disclosure, it's a buddy of mine. I've been a fan since they started. And I wish I'm hoping that they'll make another record. But what I love about this album is that this album goes into kind of it goes into the history of the area, and I'll read some excerpts from it. This is a concept album about Norway's southeastern county Vestfold. It's lineage of 5 kings in Vestfold. It's a strategically important region, the medieval area around the Oslofjord inlet. And there's a lot of like mounds and archaeological sites in the area. And so the album kind of digs into some of the history, some of the mythology that surrounds the area. And there's a lot of unanswered questions about it. And the album kind of digs into that, and it goes pretty deep. If there's a long introduction into it, and it's the concept is awesome, but it also is an incredibly dense album musically. It's got crazy orchestrations and incredible performances. It's very varied. There's moments that it sounds like chamber music. There's moments that there's bassoon, string quartet. It also crazy drum performance on this record. Absolutely phenomenal. It's for fans of certainly of Vindir and Borknagar, the more progressive leaning side of black metal. But this album is amazing because the production is really great. It's very natural sounding. It's impeccable recording. I mean, it's just a phenomenal album, and brilliant record. Dare I say their best. I mean, the album following it is also amazing. But yeah, criminally overlooked. To a lot of Heimsons in that amazing record. So definitely pick it up if you like that sound, that kind of Vindir epic melodic folky black metal without being cheesy.
All right, good one, Alan.
All right, just one moment. Just replying to Alan in the chat over there. All right, let's see. Let's do a death metal one next. This album has a really interesting concept, especially for death metal. I don't feel like it's the kind of topic you'd expect from a band in this style. It's gore guts, colored sands. The concept of this one is looking at the history of Tibet. So it doesn't tell a story per se, but each song is kind of looking at like a different period of Tibetan history. So they tell about some songs that are pre Chinese invasion and occupation, the more historical side. You have one song that focuses on that conflict where China kind of takes over, and you have some songs that talk about the history after that and kind of the trauma dealt to the native Tibetan people, having their culture basically usurped, and the extremes to some of the people went to try to either escape from that or to protest that, in very fatal ways, kind of very just, acts of desperation to try to get people to notice what was happening to them, because nobody was really stepping in to do anything about it. So not the kind of thing you expect from a band named Gore Guts, playing, a very heavy style of death metal. They're, of course, a very highly regarded band, very technically capable. And it, just really makes for a very compelling listen. They got, each song, when you go through the liner notes, they have a few lines of text talking about the inspiration for that particular track. Some of them are tied to like very specific news stories of, maybe like, a couple of young Tibetans immolating themselves as an act of protest, or, a news story of like, a group of, fleeing, Tibetan nuns. I think there's more proper name for them, being massacred as they try to escape persecution. So yeah, once again, a very heavy concept, very detailed. They really do the material justice. They're not treating it as just a two-dimensional thing. They're not trying to sensationalize it or make it too graphic. They're just kind of providing as here's what has happened to the people in this place that's been very oppressive for them for decades now. So it's a good example of one of those concepts that, yes, it's not telling you a story, but it's got a very, very deliberate theme to it that's executed superbly. So Gorguts, Colored Sands.
That is an amazing record.
It is.
Yeah.
So like we had just finished working on the last Sailor record. I won't say that last because who knows, we may do another one someday. But we had just finished working on that, and Colin had sent me the masters over, and then he was like, "Hey, check this out," and he sent me that record to see what I thought, and I got it, and I streamed it. I had like an archaic phone. All my phones are always behind the times because I'm just one of those people that hangs onto a phone until it explodes in my hand.
Same here, yeah.
And I was able to get it and listen to the record in the brewery, and we played it on our like brewery stereo, and I just sat on a keg in the middle of the brewery and played it and let it reverberate off of all the tanks. And it was just crazy how heavy and cavernous it was. I mean, it just really blew my mind. And we had all been waiting for a new Gorguts record since what was it,
from Wisdom to
Hate.
Yeah, there's a long gap.
And there was always this like talk that they were going to do another record. And God, what a payoff when it finally came out. And we all got to hear it, and it just, I mean, what a mind-blowing album. And his performance on the record is just incredible. I got to see them twice when John was playing with them, and holy shit. And I was at the show in Chicago where the singer of Skinless broke his finger on stage and reset it in the middle because he was singing for Origin, and he reset it during Origin's set. It was brutal.
Ouch.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, that was my first or second time to see Gorguts. Oh, God, what an incredible live band. They really are phenomenal. And the fact that they got a new record coming, I can't wait.
Yep. So there's some folks were asking in the chat. It sounds like it definitely could be out by the end of the year. It might trickle over to 2027, but if reports are true, it's almost in the can. So
yeah, I can't wait. Can't wait to hear it.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. It's an amazing album. It's now I struggled with for a while. The first track on it for me, for some reason, has a really high, steep learning curve. But once I figured out the first track, yeah, the rest of it just blew me away.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's go this route. We'll get Jesus-y up in here.
We already talked about Wasp.
Paramecium, exhumed of the earth. This is Jason Sherlock, the drummer from Mortification, his Death Doom band for a while. He's the guy that also went on and did Horde, the Holy Unblack band, which actually kind of rips. But this album is quite awesome. It sounds a lot like My Dying Bride. Obviously, they had to follow some you know how it is. If you like My Dying Bride, then here's a healthier, more Jesus-y aligned alternative, and that would be this. But this is a concept album that chronicles the life of Jesus, and it has basically focusing on pulls from the New Testament. There's quotes, there's verses, all dictated in here or notated in here, but the album it rules. It's really good. Excellent Death Doom. The violin, gives it a very somber feel in much the same way early My Dying Bride did. They had multiple albums. This is the only one by them I ever investigated, but it rips. It at the time it was just so much better than what was going on with Mortification. Mortification, after Sherlock left, it had a rough road. I know Steve got sick, but it got more hardcore leaning and not in a good way. You know what I mean? But this here, very much traditional, depressive, death doom, excellent stuff.
Yep, good album.
All right, I'll be right back. Charlie, you're up.
Okay. Well, let's see. I do want to talk about another record that's not really heavy metal, but I want to talk about it specifically because it actually, to me, feels like deeply kindred to the new Panopticon record in some ways. This is a band that Austin and I love to listen to all the time together. So I'll show these two first. I have the records upstairs, but these CD box sets are just easier to carry and show. Camel, one of the greatest progressive rock bands ever. They actually released a concept record in 1981 that is very, very underloved and underrated. It's called Nude. And it's based on a true story about it's based on someone from Japan that was fighting in, I believe, World War II. And their squad's mission was to go and like be stationed on an island somewhere. And it winds up being that everybody else gets bombed, killed, or whatever, extracted out, and he gets left behind and winds up basically living in the wilderness completely on his own for years and years and years. And much later on, after he's kind of come to peace with living on this island in a very like castaway type situation, he gets picked up by some family member, or like there's like a search and rescue scout mission that picks him up and finds him. They bring him back to civilization and parade him around town, and he just can't relate to like the civilized social world. And so he's like almost having these like dissociative moments of being paraded around and celebrated as this war hero, and then he gets put in the old folks' home. And the concept record ends with him basically breaking out and escaping. And the last thing that anybody sees is him on a boat headed back to the island. So it's kind of a beautiful concept record about the importance of nature, and in a very weird and abstract way. There's not many lyrics on the record either, but also a commentary on civilization, industrialization, and war. It's from the 80s. It's 1981, but Camel is a really great band for metalheads to get into if you're looking to do more prog rock in your diet, because there is this really, really intense sense of melancholy that underlies everything. And there's a lot of emotional spirit in the music that I think is kindred to a lot of the metal that we love and enjoy. They're one of my favorite bands ever. And Nude is such an incredible album that deserves so much more love and praise. So again, a little bit outside of the field of metal, a little bit out of left field, but great nonetheless.
Yeah. That was one of the bands Ackerfeld always championed as Opeth. It was getting more and more interviews, and people would ask about influences. He was always like, you got to go check out Camel if you don't know him.
Yeah.
I was just going to say
wrong.
that.
There's a lot of, Andy Latimer is the guitar player in Camel, the main songwriter. There is a lot of his DNA in the guitar work of Michael Ackerfeld. So also a really big source of inspiration for a lot of Opeth's stuff, and not just on the prog records, but like the clean stuff on the classic albums too.
No doubt.
Comes from here. So.
All right, Austin, you're back.
So I'm going to bring up this from Finland. I wish there was vinyl of this. There's not. If there is, I'm not aware of it. So this record it's great. It reminds me a lot of that mid-era Opeth, kind of dark metal. What made me buy this was that one of the vocalists, Henry, who was also in Rapture, which is an incredible Finnish doom death band, it's kind of like Brave Murder Day, the band. They did like a whole career of following that Brave Murder Day sound, but adding in like some In Flames kind of twin leads, a lot of that kind of downstroke, straightforward, four on the floor drum. And Ikuin and Kamos, only on this record kind of follows that sound, but it's got more of the kind of dark metal sensibilities like on Blackwater Park. But this is a really awesome concept record because it's about a guy who murders. He's either committed a murder or he's murdered his family. And he grows to old age and he's dealing with the guilt that he feels for what he did. And this album focuses like it's his story as he's an elderly man and processing his guilt and processing his shame of what he's done. And it's really, really, really an amazing record. And they changed sounds after this record. What's this say? Walking in the rain. Yeah, it just started raining here too. I just stepped outside to take a piss and it's like pouring rain.
What was the name of this one again, Austin? It cut out when
the band is called Ikuin and Kamos, and the album is called The Forlorn. And it is just an amazing record. I mean, it's super dark. It's like kind of has the same sound of Still Life, but without all the clean vocals. It's like a darker version of that, mid-pacey kind of Blackwater Park kind of vibes to it. Super deep vocals. I think, Henry Wielberg is the vocalist, and he was also in Rapture, along with Petri, who some of you might know from Autumn Eternal. He did vocals. Petri Eskelinen did vocals on the last song on Autumn Eternal. But this record is awesome, criminally overlooked. I really wish that people would listen to this because I would like to have it on vinyl one day. Great record. Killer.
Thanks, Shredbeard, for the super chat. Appreciate you, man.
Yep, appreciate it, Shred. And I put
check out. What's that?
Yeah. Oh, I was just going to say I put the name of that band in the chat if anybody needed to know how to spell it, if they were interested in what Austin was just showing.
I'll show I'll zoom show the cover.
So what is that one called again? What album is that?
The Forlorn.
It's not even on Bandcamp.
That sucks.
Huh.
Because it rules. I mean, it's like it kind of has the same vibes as Blackwater Park. It's amazing, but just no clean vocals. It's just all death vocals. It's incredible.
All right, Alan.
Alrighty. There's some really low-hanging fruit that's just kind of there, but
I think we're all avoiding it.
Yeah, it'll happen sooner or later. It has to. But for this round, I'll go with a different black metal project. Simon was in the chat earlier, and he got me into this band. They're from Switzerland. They're called Aara, A-A-R-A. They have a female vocalist. On some of their early albums, she's got like a very kind of high-pitched screech to her vocals. It doesn't bother me, but I think for some folks it might be a bit of a deal breaker. But by this album, she's starting to really get really good control over the vocals. This one's called Eiger, and the concept here is that it's a story. It's telling about an ill-fated German mountain climbing expedition in the 1930s, where this German team was trying to climb Eiger, which is one of the more treacherous peaks in Europe. One particular face of the peak is especially hard to climb, and they were trying to be one of the first groups to do it. Didn't end well. It's a little creepy, but in the picture on the cover is actually was taken by one of the rescue team that were sent to try to get the survivors off the mountain after an avalanche hit them. The little thing dangling suspended on a rope over here that's frozen to death. Well, yeah, they didn't necessarily arrive in time. Spoiler alert. But Aura's a really cool project. This albums they did before this, they did like a 3-part trilogy that was extremely good. And they followed it up with this album. It came out at the very tail end of 2024. It was one of those like December releases that people tend to overlook because it's the end of the year. But very well executed black metal. Really like the improvement on the vocals from album to album. And yeah, just a really kind of interesting story, very bleak story, very appropriate for this particular style too. It's not atmospheric black metal really, but it definitely has touches of that. It's got a viciousness to it though. So I think it's a band that could appeal to a wider swath of black metal fans if they check it out. So yeah, not a particularly well-known one, but one I thought definitely deserved to be highlighted. Aura with the album Eiger. I think it's their 6th album overall, but Simon can correct me if I'm wrong.
I love that band. I like all the stuff that they've done. I loved their first record, and the following. They had another record after the first one that didn't keep with the concept of the first one, and then they did 2 more that followed up, kind of a part 2 and 3, and then they'd had an EP and a 7-inch, and then they had this record. And this record broke with the aesthetic and the concept of the earlier records. But I also felt like this record broke with the sound. Because before they had this kind of neoclassical influence in their riff writing. It was like all kind of based on classical music. And this record sounds more like a modern post-black metal record. It's more extreme. But yeah, I think that band is amazing. They're a great band.
Yeah, they're really very cool. Yeah, I think there's either 1 or 2 of their early albums I haven't heard, but yeah, the triad of like Nyx and Eros were the ones that Simon first recommended that I got into them with. So I still got a little homework to do on the band.
Yeah, killer band. Really great. And also like, I don't know if they play live or not, but their pictures of them, they're all dressed in kind of crazy garb and very theatrical in their appearance, and they dropped all of that with the record.
And you're right. They used to do the. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. You got it. I mean, that's they kind of put that aside, and so it's like kind of seems like that was an era, and then I'm curious about what they'll do next.
Yeah, I think there's potential. I was kind of glad to see him put aside all the crimson robes and masks. Just there was nothing wrong with it, but so many bands do that nowadays.
That's what you got to do to get recognized anymore. You got to do something wacky,
You do, but when everybody's doing it, you don't get noticed anymore. It's not wacky. So it's kind of.
But this album proves that they are great songwriters, great musicians.
Yes.
That they don't need a shtick to make an amazing record. They're beyond that as musicians. They did the thing; it was cool, and then now they're like, "Hey, here's the record. This is a concept album. It's and the record's incredible. It is a challenging because it is so extreme. I mean, it's brutal.
Yeah, it is.
But it's amazing. It's an incredible record.
All right, well, we're going to 1990 death metal from Florida, and that would be Nocturnus, The Key.
Oh,
nice. Yep.
And this album is super special for the fact that this was very early on where death metal was experimenting, not just experimenting, incorporating a standalone synth player, keyboard player. And the inclusion of synthesizer with death metal, it very horror-phonically charged, a little sci-fi at times. And the concept of this, I'm going to read it because it's pretty damn funny. The core storyline, the narrative follows a cyborg who travels back in time to the year 0 BC with the goal of assassinating Jesus Christ. This act is meant to destroy Christianity and prevent its rise, leading to the collapse of the old world order. In its place, the album imagines the creation of a modern, technologically advanced empire. So, there you go.
awesome.
Mike Browning is the drummer, singer on this one. I like his voice, but I don't like the way he places the words over the music. He's very much following the riff verbatim. It gets a little old for me, but still, when this dropped, I'm pretty blown away by it. You just didn't hear anything this atmospheric for weird ways, just really dense synth layers laid on there. And it just, it was cool. Something new, something different. And one of those bands that kind of started something interesting and never could get it together after that. They put out a few more records throughout the years, but it just always seemed like it was plagued with. Well, Thresholds was good. I did
Thresholds
like Thresholds.
Is cool, man.
Yeah,
Thresholds
it's a good
very
record.
Cool. Yeah,
it took me forever to get that. That wasn't an easy album to track down, by the way. And the one I have might very well be a bootleg, but it's still, yeah.
That's fair. Now that one's cool. Even the one with Mike Browning, it's very different. It's kind of cool. It's a little more cinematic, very soundscapey.
That one was called Ethereal Tomb. Yep.
Yeah, Louis kind of took the lead more on that one, and you can tell because the keyboards are more central.
Yep. Cool, though. I mean, it definitely deserves to be talked about in a band that was an innovator, for sure. Charlie.
All right. Well, that cues up my next one pretty dang well. This is basically, I would say maybe not musically a ripoff of Nocturnus, but aesthetically definitely is, and an equally absurd concept story album thing going on. And actually, I looked this up in the last hour or so before we started streaming. I didn't realize you guys had covered this on Metallurgy. So one of you might have a physical copy. I don't, because they're like $80, $90 to get on a CD, but I've got to go with Crystal Age.
Oh,
I have a cassette. I have the reissue cassette of that, which looks like the Thresholds album cover, by the way, by Nocturnus.
I wish that it would focus, but it's a beautiful cover. Crystal Age, Far Beyond Divine Horizons. Man, I feel like I would have to read that one off of a sheet too. But basically, it plagiarizes Star Wars while also being like maybe even more brutally technical than Nocturnus, but definitely in the same vein. And then it's also like half the guys are in Hammerfall.
Yep.
So there's just all of this weird stuff around it. And it's an album that just kind of exists on its own little island too. I don't know. I think it's really unique and special. Musically, absolutely bonkers. Like, it gives me the same grin on my face sometimes that listening to like Necrophagist does. It doesn't really sound like that, but it's that same kind of tomfoolery going on. And they even, I can't even remember what song it's on, but where they literally just rip off Star Wars. They sample The Empire Strikes Back. And the last song's called Star Destroyer. Like they're trying to make it as close to being Star Wars in concept as they can without getting their balls absolutely sued into smithereens.
Right.
And in the process, I think they make a really awesome record doing it. It's kind of like, there's that one like really sketchy black metal band that has the awesome Darth Vader album cover.
Vondor.
Yeah.
I don't know if they were sketchy, but well, I mean, I don't know. But
I don't know. But it's like the other side of that.
Furley Sing is the name of that record.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah.
But yeah, Crystal Age, that's also just one of the best logos I've ever seen. It looks like Cinderella meets Nocturnus. To be fair, the band kind of does too. It's great.
Hey, Brian Rotten, thanks for the super chat, man. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Brian.
Yep,
I would
Nile
say
was
that
definitely on the
Nile
list.
counts as a concept band.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So it's interesting, like you bring up this like plagiarizing the Star Wars. Like my kids listen to this band called Victorious. It's like the cheesiest power metal about dinosaurs and ninjas and stuff. And at one point, they straight up in a solo, like a shred solo, bust into the theme from Jurassic Park. And my youngest son, Runa, he listens to it like all the time on repeat. And so at this point, like I can sing along with it. Like
this is the Victorious band, right?
Yeah,
yes.
and dragons and stuff, and it's like
war dinosaur.
This is what I deserve. This is what I deserve. I did this to my parents. My parents had to listen to Discharge blasting through the house, and now I have to listen to Victorious. You get what you give. So
good stuff is coming, Austin. My kid got in the van today at the bus stop, and he's like, "Can I put on something?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." He put on "Don't Break the Oath" by Merciful Fate, and I'm just like, "Oh, yeah.
So Hokan and I went down to the Twin Cities for something. He had a doctor's appointment, and we went into a record store, and they had a bunch of shirts. And I said, "You pick out any shirt you want." And he asked, he's like, "Papa, can I get a Don't Break the Oath shirt?" And I was like, "Yes, you can."
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can, my son.
Yep.
I was proud. So I'm gonna get this out of the way. This has to be acknowledged. You know, the Nattens Madrigal by Ulver. You know, Alta hymn till evenly månen. Eight hymns to the wolf and man. It's kind of the first black metal concept record. And what does it mean? I don't know. What is it about? I don't know. But it's about the wolf and man. That's what I know. And this record is so integral. This is the reissue that they remastered it and you can actually hear everything. My original version of this that I got like 20 years ago was the original master, and it's so trebly, but we listened to it and we suffered through it and then loved it. But this version that they did, they went back and they remastered it, and it sounds so much better, and you can hear so much more in this version of the record. The riffs are incredible. It's such a great album, and that first trilogy is indispensable. I mean, it's like if you don't like these first three records, then you just don't like black metal, in my opinion.
The second album's not black metal. It's not even close to a black metal record.
But it is, in the sense that it's the acoustic version of black metal. It's like it fits within the feeling. It fits within the vibe. It fits so well within, like, Bergtatt to me is like, you know, that's my favorite black metal record of all time. But this one, the riffs are incredible. I don't know, I love it. And I love, in particular, this pressing of it. It sounds amazing. And it also was included in the box set for those that bought the comprehensive box set that they did years ago. So now that's out of the way. We did it.
But I don't think they have a digital or CD copy of the remaster available anywhere. And that drives me crazy because I also have that 2016 Century Media pressing, and it's incredible. But I've been looking online like mad for the remaster.
You have to buy the Trollsk Svartmetal box set. That's digitally. I think Century Media did it, and it has all of the remasters all together. And because I actually have the digital version as well, but you can't buy them individually. You have to buy the box set version. And it sounds so much better. It's so much clearer. It's so much. You can hear everything really well. You can hear all the riffs. You can hear all the nuances, and I mean, it's awesome, man.
Yeah, I think he did show the remaster, Wade.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's so the box set has it that this is Century Media like did it. They were like, oh, you can only get this box set, blah blah blah, that has this, and they released all of them. So this is the 2016 version. Let's see if I can. There you go. So this is the individual, because I hate box sets because I don't want to open up the thing and dig them all out. I can't stand it. And then I'm always a sucker who's like, oh, I'm not going to get it again. May as well buy the fucking box set. And I get it. Now I'm sitting, and then they release it later on single, and then I end up buying that because I don't want to break my box set apart. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's super stupid. I always get got. Collector scum.
Yep, collector scum. All right. Ellen. Oops. Yeah, that's right. I thought I'm all screwed up here.
And Elvor followed that up with another concept album, but I'll skip this one tonight.
You can if you'd like.
I could. I've got a lot, and I'll highlight two that are actually closer to Charlie's Crystal Age pick, bands that did death metal but went in that kind of sci-fi direction. One that's a newer project is Nucleus. This is their second album called Entity. They were on Unspeakable Acts, and also this was also released with Dark Descent. I don't know if the band is still together or if they just haven't done much lately. But if you want Nocturnus without Mike Browning, you're in the right zip code with Nucleus. They're doing that same kind of technical, sci-fi themed death metal. So it's heavily inspired by stuff like Nocturnus, hints of Vector where it leans a little thrashy sometimes. It's a really good concept story. It's just a very straight to the point sci-fi story about some kind of horrible cosmic entity, hence the title, that's overwhelming planets, and you've got this big federation of different races that are trying to find a way to stop it. It's a pretty straightforward action feeling sci-fi story. It's very similar for anybody who's into the whole Warhammer 40,000 universe stuff. It is very similar to the Tyranid storylines, if that helps any. One thing that's nice about it, it's a pretty short and to the point album. The whole album's, I think, under 40 minutes. So they don't drag it out. They get in, put the story together, and the death metal is very solid too. I think the better, more classic example of this, though, is Bolt Thrower. Yeah, early on, they had this weird working relationship with Games Workshop, who did a lot of role-playing game stuff. They published like White Dwarf back in the 80s that kind of birthed the whole Warhammer universe. And somehow this, crust death metal band, collaborated with them to actually use, artwork and concepts for a couple of their albums. The cover art for Realms of Chaos. These are Space Marines. These are Astarte. They're fighting off, I don't know if this picture if it even shows who they're shooting at. It doesn't matter. In Warhammer, you just keep shooting. And when you run out of bullets, you club things to death with the gun that you're still holding. But, even like a lot of the artwork in the booklet was from the same people who were illustrating for White Dwarf and the original role-playing manuals for a Warhammer. So there's a lot of concepts through this. The War Master album also kind of follows suit with that. So it was a really cool concept. I don't think this album's telling like any particular one story out of Warhammer. I don't think it's the Horus Heresy or any of the bigger campaigns. But yeah, it's very themed around it. And it's the perfect match. The whole Warhammer universe is this terribly bleak, dark universe where mankind just fights to survive. And the whole point is we are going to lose. But we're going to kill every motherfucking thing we can before we lose, is all it comes down to. Nobody likes us. We don't like anybody. They're stronger than us, but we will just keep throwing bodies at them until we clog the rivers with our dead, or they wipe us off the face of the universe. There is no other choice. So, and that's Bolt Thrower, just with that heavy, brutal, crushing music, that particular flavor of death metal that now gets copied by so many bands. It's the perfect soundtrack to Warhammer games. I've known a lot of the gamer types over the years. Some of them are really into metal. Some of them aren't. They all know Bolt Thrower. It may sound like a kind of just cheesy one-off collaboration nobody noticed. Everybody in the gaming community knows those two Bolt Thrower albums because of the Game Workshop's connection. Even if they don't listen to any other heavy metal, they will have those to play anytime they're putting out all their little painted miniatures and measuring how many centimeters are in between the orcs and the sisters sororitas to figure out what the +3 bonus is on their laser rifle. And I wish I was making that up. That's exactly how you play the game. You measure and you look at charts to see whether or not you killed their little painted figurine.
I am not smart enough to play that game. I'm just saying straight up, not smart enough for that for me. No.
You have to be crazy rich to play that game. The figurines are expensive as hell, and you have to paint them yourself. I'm like, if I'm going to pay you $250 for a 3-inch figure of a space orc, you're going to paint the damn thing for me. I ain't doing it. But it's a big part of the reason why people get into it. They love doing the custom paint jobs. You can if you ever need a new rabbit hole to go down, Marty, type in like Warhammer painting videos on YouTube and see how many months of your life you can spend watching guys show you how
It's
to
incredible.
paint Warhammer figurines. It's nuts.
Like
And I mean that
silver
in a good way.
washing, like where they silver wash the whole thing and then they like try to make it look all, yeah, it's insane.
Yes. It
my
is
my
wild.
oldest son is super into D&D, and he's like obsessed, and his room is covered, and that's every penny that he gets he puts towards D&D. And I was trying to show him Bolt Thrower, and I was like, hey, you should check this out. It's this, I know you're into this role-playing game thing, blah blah blah, it's all about Warhammer. And he's like, oh Papa, I can't afford that.
Yeah.
My 14-year-old was like, I can't afford that. Like, he's like, no, he's not even interested because he knows how much it costs. And I was just trying to get him to listen to Bolt Thrower. That's all I was trying to do.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to like, hey, spend money on this thing. I was like, hey, just check this out,
Yeah.
But
he's not wrong though.
I still got him to listen to Bolt Thrower though.
Nice.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So it's kind of
he is
a win.
Yep. He is not wrong about the price tag. I was in a game store with my little boy sometime in the past couple weeks. I wandered over to the Warhammer section just out of curiosity, picked up like one little box, roughly the size of like a Kleenex box. It has like, one Space Marine tank in it. It was, I think, $225.
Oh my God.
For one model that fits in a Kleenex box that you're going to have to paint yourself.
Oh no.
So yeah, it's just like,
so I don't want him to be into that.
Yep. You'll never have to worry about him getting into drugs or records because every cent he has will go into Warhammer.
Yeah. So Alan Ellsworth, you created the Striper division of Warhammer, half of them yellow, half of them black. And Miss A, thanks a lot for the super chat. Appreciate you. All right.
Take it away, Marty.
Well, Kevin was asking about it, so
there it is.
Yep, one of my favorite albums of all time. Love this record. Yep. And the story is concept behind Voivod's Submission Hatros. It's a concept album by Canadian thrash prog pioneers Voivod, telling the story of their reoccurring cyborg mascot Korgul as he ventures into a hostile dystopian dimension. The narrative blends science fiction with political and philosophical themes, exploring terrorism, totalitarian governments, religion, and cosmic devastation. Basically, their guy Korgul here, he tries to infiltrate a world and doesn't feel it's worthy, and then ends up destroying it. That's the concept. But there's a lot of other things going on in it too. But this album is perfection from start to finish. It is so freaking good. I bought this for Austin. He was not a Voivod guy. He put it on his shelf. I think we listened to it when I was there. But this is one he needs to pull out.
It.
You didn't listen to it?
I did. Listen to it. Heck yeah.
Yeah. But this is some of the most unique. You call it proggy. It just sounds more sci-fi to me than prog. I don't know. It's just the tuning, Piggy's phrasing, the way he plays the guitar. It's just so drenched in melody and dissonance. The songs are so inventive. I think Snake might be the sticking point for a lot of people. His voice is so different. But man, this was a very special record in their catalog of many great records, but that one for sure. Thanks, Lee, for the super chat. Appreciate you, man. All right, Charlie.
Well, good thing that you called on that one because I get to talk about the other one that I pulled, which was The Wake.
Oh, great record.
2018. This is in my top 5 Voivod records ever.
It's great.
And it's a concept record about an alien invasion of a military research facility on Earth, I believe. I could be getting that completely wrong. I did not review it lyric by lyric before coming in today, but there's a lot of things that make this record really special. It's extremely cohesive, and it's such a triumph being one of the first albums without Piggy. I think it's, in my opinion, the best thing that they've released since losing him. And also, it's notable because if I'm not mistaken, this album was almost entirely written by Chewy, the replacement of Piggy.
Yeah.
He had long been a Voivod fan and had always said that was his favorite band, and he always secretly hoped that he would become a member one day, and wrote a lot of material for like an imaginary one day, if I was in Voivod, this is the album I would write. And he wrote a lot of what became this record. It's fun, it's heavy, it's modern sounding. A lot of their new records have this really weird, like dry, up in your face sound to them that's very different from the Berlin records and what they did in the late 80s. But it just works so well. And this is an extremely heavy, experimental, but cohesive and brilliant album that also musically calls back to specific moments on Dimension Hatros, and also Jack Luminous from The Outer Limits gets a musical reference and a lyrical reference on this album. And The Outer Limits is actually my favorite Voivod record ever. So for there to be a concept album that references Jack Luminous, who's basically like the god of their entire reality, I just love that. I love that their albums reference each other in that way. But yeah, absolutely phenomenal and incredible record. I almost pulled the Martyr album. Was it? Can I remember if it's called Time Warp or Time Zone?
I don't own. I have a Martyr demo. I don't have anything else by them.
I might go up and grab it, but basically, Chewy has another record from around the time that From Wisdom to Hate came out, because the guy that plays on this record on guitar, he's also the guitarist of Gorguts in 2001 to 2002. Mm-hmm. And during that time, his band Martyr put out a record that he got Luc Lemay to do all of the spoken word narration on. And it's not really like a story concept record, but kind of like we're talking about today, more of like a thematic exploration with a narrator to tie it all together. And that narrator being Luc Lemay from Gorguts is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I need to get the name of that album right. But it's Martyr. Going to Metal Archives really quick. No shame.
The last record of theirs that I am familiar with was Warp Zone, and I think they have two since then.
Warp Zone, that's the one.
I love Warp Zone. That record was killer.
Yeah, 2000. That was in the year 2000. So that's right before From Wisdom to Hate. Yeah.
Hey, Scott and Wade, thank you so much for the super chats. Thank you, guys.
Really appreciate it, guys.
Also, the drummer that was on those Martyr records is the current drummer for Gorguts. So, yeah, but I think his name is Patrice. So,
I met him and he was extremely sweet.
Everybody in that band's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Austin.
I guess I'm up. I'm gonna do this Thranenkeen record. Thranenkeen started off as a depressive black metal band. With this record, they turned into kind of like a post-hardcore with some blackened elements, but it's mostly post-hardcore. It's very atmospheric, very kind of mid-pacey. And this record is a concept album about, there's a story inside of it. The LP has a fold-out poster that one of the members wrote this story about, like a young man who came from a neglectful and abusive family environment, and the father that they had all this associative trauma with passed away, and they were on the way to go to his funeral and going back to their family home, and there's a lot of like pin-up feelings. His sister are on the way back to kind of let go of that period of their lives. And on the way there, they end up getting in a car accident on a rural road in the Pacific Northwest. They hit an elk, and it turns the car upside down, and they wander off into the woods. Like they're separated because one of them is unconscious and the other one is awake. And they go into the woods and they meet by this lake. And when they're by the lake, they see the elk on the other side of the lake. There's like females and young elk on the other side. And then they see the elk that they hit on the other side. He's like scraped up and stuff. And it's, it's kind of framed in a profound way. And the album kind of follows the story, but it is also processing their thoughts and feelings about the world around them and their interactions with modernity and industrialization. It's very political, but it's very personalist political. Ferengian at this point had a focus on animal rights and anti-industrialization critiques of the modern world. Definitely a political band. Members of Wind in His Hair and who were they in? Bonjour Tristesse and a couple other bands within the genre. Yeah, great record. I like this one. They changed their name after this album to King Apathy after this album. And I kind of lost the thread after that, but I really liked this one. So it was good. And I still really like it to this day. It's a very nice record.
All right. Right on. Alan.
All right. This next one doesn't tell a story, but it definitely has a theme. It's a band from Denmark called Wuthering Heights, which is not a very good band name for a heavy metal band.
No.
But yeah, this is a European power metal project, but they have their own take on it. There's definitely a folk influence to the music, not as overt as something like Skyclad, but it's there in some songs. The vocalist has a deeper voice too. He's got like a very good baritone. A lot of people in reviews compared him to Dio, which I never quite heard that myself, but I think they were just trying to get at the point that he really sticks to the mid-range. He's not doing all this, really high vocalization that people stereotypically associate with European power metal. This is their last album to date. It's called Salt, and the theme here is nautical. Just like, with the cover art, having the kind of, old shipwreck. Most of the songs here have a nautical theme to them. Let's see, you have like, The Mad Sailor is, pretty straightforward. Some of these have also instrumentation added, like accordions and things. Certain songs, there's one that has a verse that is very much kind of a sea chanty in construction. It's got the accordion, very fast-paced, kind of sound to it. The Field is about a sailor who basically tries to give up life on sea and just settle down on a plot of land to start a small farm. That he just wants to kind of get away from that lifestyle. Lost at Sea, is kind of their long closing epic track. It's an extremely well put together album. They have there are lots of talented guitarists out there. This guy is really on that rarefied level. He had some problems with his hand or arm for years, which is why they were on a long hiatus. But yeah, his playing's incredible. The vocalist has a lot of charisma. And just the fact that they would write an entire album that has this unusual theme, and it's just very well grounded. Again, they're not trying to tell big tales of adventure. It's not cheesy two-dimensional pirate stuff. It's not Disney metal. It's very straightforward songs, and they used a lot of instrumentation and song structures to really reinforce this is the kind of thing you would associate with sailing life on vessels. So extremely good album, very overlooked. Like I said, unfortunately, they had to take a very long hiatus after this. They're still listed as active. You hear rumblings every now and then that they're working on material. I would love to see them come back with something. The first couple of albums are a little hit or miss, but that had a different lineup. Once the lineup solidified on album number 3, they put out 3 extremely top-notch albums that nobody's really ever heard of because they're all 15 or 20 years old. And they named themselves Wuthering Heights, which just is not going to induce a lot of heavy metal fans to pick up your record. But if you can get past the name, the music is a treasure.
Yep. Glory Hammer or Wuthering Heights. Probably most people are going for Glory Hammer, but we'll be sadly
Yep.
tricked.
Yeah, if you're like me and the Glory Hammers of the world just do not work for you, Wuthering Heights is everything that Glory Hammer isn't. They're at the polar opposite end of the power metal spectrum.
Yep. It's really sophisticated, great stuff. That Salt's a great record.
Yeah, it's arguably my favorite. Those last three albums are all top notch, but that Salt is probably the best one they did so far.
All right. I'm up next. Oh, that's right. MDF is this weekend. Aha. Gotcha.
That's true. Yep.
All right. We've all been beating around the bush here. It's time to get the king out.
Hail to the king.
Get yours out there. I know you went with the one after.
Should we just do it all?
We should all just do it all. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So Marty, to lead us into it.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Just get that out of the way.
This is obviously Merciful Fate set this ball rolling, and Fatal Portrait hinted at concepts. Part of that record did have a story that was just through a few songs. Abigail is where he fully went into, it doesn't feel like a rock opera. It just feels like an excellently crafted metal record with an ongoing story throughout. So when you think of rock opera, it just brings a certain type of a mental image. I like Streets by Savatage. What an amazingly great record, but you can't help but you can hear Meatloaf all over that thing with the piano and stuff. And that initially that really turned me off to that record, but the more I listen to it, it's so good. It's such a good record. This here, it's just a straight up amazing continuation of Merciful Fate, minus the evil atmosphere perhaps, but it feels more like a miniature movie put to music. And King really did a great job figuring out how to make it. Kind of became his shtick moving forward. Every album was a new story, and he just found out a way to write really good lyrics that did not break the facade. He stayed within the story throughout all the songs and made it feel cohesive and still musical. Each song had its own identity, even though it was connected to the larger story of the whole album. But man, this record blew me away the first time I heard it. The closing seconds of the last track, Black Horseman, that dueling guitar lead or the twin leads lines hook up, Denner and Laroque. Oh my God, it is just a magical moment, and they make you wait till the final seconds of the final song. Not that there isn't anything else good on here, but there's just that one moment. It's just so magical, perfect union of guitars and melody and feel, a lot of emotion in those notes. And King Diamond, I cannot tell you how many times I've listened to these albums. They're part of the DNA at this point. And yeah, I mean, y'all pulled it out. Is there anything y'all want to talk about regarding King before we move on?
I had a question there, actually. Was there ever, I can't remember if any of his 90s records, maybe The Eye was like technically a sequel to Abigail?
There's an album, Abigail 2.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Fuck.
Which I love. I mean, I know other people are kind of down on that record. There's some great songs on that album.
Somehow I completely forgot about it. Yeah.
You should check it out because it's a really great record.
Yeah.
I got to see him do Abigail front to back in Minneapolis. It was this brutal snowstorm. It was amazing. And, we wondered if the show was actually going to happen because the storm was so bad. I mean, we're talking like feet in a night. And it was so awesome. And he did a whole set of non-Abigail material before. And it was just, it was my first time to see King. And it really blew my mind. It was just absolutely incredible. And it was so good that I came home and like it was right at. I mean, Hogan was just a baby, just a little bitty guy, and it was like one of the rare nights that I got to go out and go to a show and go into, it was driving an hour, and at the time I lived in central Minnesota, and so it was like an hour to get there, and in a snowstorm it was even more. And then I got home and I told Beck, I was like, next time King comes through, we got to get Grandma to watch the kids. And yeah, sorry,
you got to get who's going to watch the kids?
And then Beck got to see King. And there was one point where we're just standing there and she was just staring. And I was like, I asked her, I was like, are you having fun? She's like, it's just so much. It's so much to take in, because it's such an intense performance. And there's, people wandering through the stage and this crazy set. I mean, it's awesome. And I've seen also, I saw Merciful Fate as well. And I mean, it was just, what an incredible performer. What an incredible band. I mean, just awesome. Amazing.
Yep. Anybody else on King Diamond? We good?
Not much to add. I mean, concept albums in King Diamond, I mean, that's central to the whole topic. Yes,
for sure.
If he's the one everybody knows.
The only thing I can think to add is that the two records I held up, people forget that they're actually related concept albums.
Yep.
Right.
First and second chapter. And Conspiracy is my favorite King Diamond moment across his whole discography.
It's a great record.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. Sleepless Nights is just forever stuck in my head. It's just eternal for me.
Yep. All right. Well, this should probably be our last round. Or you want to do two more, Alan? What do you want to do?
It probably should be the last round. No, you're right. So,
you want to stack up a couple of them? Go ahead.
Sure.
Oh, cool. Well, I'll get the rest of them out of the way that I had in my bin here. I skipped over a couple that were not really as much metal records, but here we go. Gentle Giant. This is a horrible album cover. There's a better album cover version. This is the US version. Three Friends. Amazing concept record. It's a story about three friends.
Thanks, Eric. You rule, man. Thanks.
Hey, then we got Jethro Tull's Thick as a Brick, which is a whole making fun of concept albums and making fun of people that like them, featuring the lyric, "Your cum is in the sink." Unforgettable, quirky, strange album. This is one that I have to admit is like a guilty pleasure of mine. It's very near and dear to my heart. It's my favorite Mastodon record. The concept story behind it is absolutely bonkers. Cosmic fantasy sci-fi story about consciousness told through Rasputin. And then, of course, just because it is technically a concept album, I don't really feel like talking about it. But the concept elements of this are really fun, and it has Ian Anderson of Jethro Tull on it. Last Will and Testament by Opeth. It's done really well. Is it my favorite? Is it a return to form? No, I don't think so. Am I glad that it came out and exists? Absolutely. Last two that I'll shout out. I have to pull up my phone on this one because they keep selling out every single time that a new copy batch goes up. One of my favorite bands right now in the realm of technical death metal and sci-fi is the band Cryptic Shift.
Oh yeah,
it's a good record.
That album's great, and honestly, the new record
one is fucking crazy. I can't listen. It's too hard. It's too much.
Man, I don't know. It clicks with me. There's a great music video for this album, Marty, that you should check out. It'll make you very, very happy, and it kind of makes the rest of the record more digestible too. It's probably my pick for album of the year so far for me. But what I like about them is that they're almost like, it's like Lamb Lies Down on Broadway in terms of how impenetrably dense the lyrics are, and it almost seems like the band doesn't want to take you on the ride, and yet they do. There's just a lot going on where you're reading the lyrics and you're like, I don't fucking get any of this. I don't get what I'm hearing.
Yep.
I don't get any of it, but like I know it's good. And then I don't know. The new record, it eventually clicked with me, and it's been something that's at the top of my list now because I just absolutely love it. It's batshit nuts.
Oh, dude, I was going to review it for the channel. I'm listening to it. I'm like, this sounds improvised. It's like that jazz that they make up on the spot. Oh, it's too much. It was too much. Anyway, what were you going to say, Alan? I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, I was just going to ask Charlie if he'd heard their Death Doom side project, Slime Lord.
Slime Lord is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that
if you,
album's crazy good too.
I think it's like more digestible and also just, yeah, it's really fun.
Yep.
and
It's still,
heavy.
it's for a Death Doom album though. It's weird, but in all the best ways.
Right. Right. So good. Yeah. It's one of my favorite $20 spin albums.
Mm-hmm.
Zintoid.
Ziltoid from Devin Townsend.
Zenton.
All right, Austin, you're up.
So I didn't pull any Crass records because Christ the album counts as a concept record, but I also feel like it's so issue based. And then Yes Sir I Will is definitely a concept record, but it's more like agitation propaganda where they're responding to specific issues, and it's kind of difficult to classify that as a concept record when it was like so connected to the current events in the 1980s. So that was why I didn't pull those. So I'll save the one record I really want to talk about for the last. When we were talking about concept bands, I think Returning definitely fits within a concept band because they, each album is a specific issue that they're tackling, but it's deeply connected to their live performance, which is how they kind of embellish what they're actually talking about on the records through the theatrics of their live performance. So like their first record, they had a corresponding live performance in the theater that went along with it versus the record that came out on Bindrune also had live theater that followed the record, and the consequences of industrialization, the consequences of modernity is a key focus, and the impacts that industrialization has on the environment. And it's really one of those things to really understand it, you have to see Returning live, and I highly recommend it to anybody and everybody. I have to include Hieroglyphs. This album, De Home, focuses so much on the Bavarian mythology, the places and the stories behind those places and the myths that are attached to those places. And this album goes song by song, talking about different myths and different cultural aspects of Bavarian culture that super focuses on that. It's awesome. This record, Orphanland Mabul, I don't really know what the album is about because so much of it is above my head, but it's definitely a concept record and focuses lyrically on their culture, their history, and getting live surrounding this record and the following record was an amazing experience. Incredible live band. But the album that I really wanted to talk about, and it'll be my last one, I also have to mention Wheels Within Wheels, by the way. They did an amazing concept record, which I couldn't find the CD because it's buried in my CD collection.
Shout out to Crow.
Yeah, shout out to Crow. The 6 months of the Northern Course of the Sun. Well, shit. Let's see if we can
Tip it down a little bit.
There you go. This record, I actually texted Crow earlier to explain it to me, and so much of it's the Northern Course is the path of the unlimited knowledge of spiritual aspirations. And if your body leaves on the northern swing, you'll be as good as you can be. And he explained it's way over my head. I don't understand what he's talking about, but I love the record. It's incredible. And I knew that it was a concept album, and it's part of this whole thing that he's into that is like, woo. And it's awesome. And it's an incredible record. It's beautiful. I wish it would be out on wax someday. But this, Fauna, The Hunt. This record is literally, it is step by step an album about nomadic hunter-gatherers and their experience while preparing for a hunt and then executing that hunt. And the album takes you through the steps of that hunt. And it is amazing. It is an absolutely phenomenal album. it's step by step, going through, fasting, and then going through tracking, and then going through the kill and fulfillment. And, that's literally the ending is called the kill fulfillment. It's an amazing record and an incredible piece of American black metal history. If you like American black metal, Fauna is a great place to start. And The Hunt is an incredible starting point for anybody. And Rain, the previous album, is just one long song. And Avifauna, the following record, is also a concept record that follows, like, it's about, the birds and all the animals, the ecosystem where they live. So, I also would say that Fauna probably falls into the concept band kind of thing.
Yeah.
So great records, incredible records. I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge also Valgeflister's most recent record. And after this, I promise I'll shut up. Keroke Gesonge. It's an incredible album dealing with the things we leave behind and the legacies that we have. Who we are in life and how the things that we build in life echo after we pass on. And that record deals with that in so many incredible and beautiful ways. So there you go. That's what I got.
All right. Good run of stuff. Alan, what you got?
I got 3 or 4. We'll start with this one. It's a band from Boston called Steel Assassin. The album's called War of the Eight Saints, which is based on a historical war. I will read the intro because it's kind of hilarious the way it's structured. So here's the introduction to the story. It'll only take a moment. War of the Eight Saints. When Pope Gregory XI, 1331 to 1378, imposed a grain embargo against Florence in 1374, the city organized a league of cities to rise against the papacy. So you have an album that's telling about a historical conflict centered around a grain embargo. I love the fact that this exists.
But it's got an angel on a horse on the cover.
It's got an angel and a horse on the cover. Yep.
That horse has been lifting.
That horse is swole.
It's leg day, baby. Every day's
Swole's a goal.
leg day.
Hey, you got to be gonna carry around a big armored angel looking thing on your back. Just the fact that they took this very obscure thing from history, turned it into a concept album on their very first album after having existed on and off for 27 years before they got the album made. And at the end of the day, this thing absolutely smokes. It looks and sounds like it's going to be some very weird foo-foo power metal thing. This is like Jagdpanzer's Ample Destruction on crack. I mean, this is U.S. power metal in all its glory. Heavy as shit, just, battering ram U.S. power metal. Couldn't ask for something better. And it's centered around, a Pegasus angel horse thing and an album about a grain embargo. So, the pieces don't fit together, but the music is killer.
Something about that album cover made me realize for the first time that Assassin has the word ass inside of it twice.
It does.
Double your pleasure.
Horny album cover.
Yeah.
Let's breeze through a couple of other ones here that deserve a shout out. Chicago's Vukari. Their first release was a concept album. It's called Matriarch. I've downloaded it from the band on Bandcamp. I don't have a physical copy. It's the story is like about this Slavic girl who's sold to a Germanic lord who promises to give her freedom, but of course doesn't. But she eventually, it basically finds a way to claim her independence, and then kind of follows her trek, as an independent, woman who's She found her way out of slavery. Well, we won't spoil this one. Vukari's a cool band, and it was a really interesting concept for a debut release. We've got this band is pretty cool. 1914, not a concept record, but all of their stuff is. This is another thematic band where everything they write about is centered around World War One, and they go extremely deep into all these kind of little forgotten battles and skirmishes and different aspects of the war. It's not just focused on the 2 or 3 big central things. They have like one entire song just about this one particular Canadian unit who didn't even have a particularly big role in the war, but they go into the history of that unit. So it's a cool project. I really kind of dropped the ball on, did not check out their latest release last year. I need to fix that. And the last one to shout out here is Marty turned me on to this one several years ago. Sweden's Panfaga. Their second album is
Dringskapper.
There we go. Is a concept album that tells the tale, and it's kind of cool because they've got the insert gives you the entire rundown on the story. The saga of Gretnir the Strong. Really good atmospheric black metal.
Very catchy.
Very catchy.
Yeah.
Extremely well written.
Remind me of Arcanum.
I love
sure.
the fact that they went to the trouble of writing out all the historical detail stuff. That they didn't just summarize it as one quick paragraph or something. That they really gave you the whole background of what the concept was about. So, yeah, I'll stop there. Let Marty bring it on home for the night.
Okay. Oops. All right. Darkestra, The Great Silk Road.
Oh, great record.
This is a really, really good record. Another one with a lady screamer, and she rips on this thing. Really harsh black metal vocals, but the music is very melodically charged. It's got a lot of movement in it. Very memorable, catchy stuff. It's it kind of goes through the history of the Silk Road, which was the trade network once connected Central Asia to the rest of the world. It was a very important network. They would everything from food to textiles to technology, and it helped that whole portion of the that whole location grow, technologically speaking. And this is, if you've never heard of Darkestra, I have a couple of their records, but this is the first one I ever heard, and it's a pretty special record. I haven't spun it in a hot minute, but it is very catchy. I don't care. This album, there is something so damn catchy and memorable about this record, and it is Sabaton Heroes. This thing, this is one of those bands, they write the most perfect chorus in all of heavy metal and then write the rest of the song around it. The rest of the song is inconsequential leading up to this chorus. Let's just say that. But this is a concept. I mean, this is a band that always documents war. They actually talk about real people. Like each song is about a person, a historical person on both sides of the conflict. And man, there's some absolute earworms on this thing. This is the one that got me into this band. It was given to me by a friend, and I'm like, this is going to be terrible. I put it on, 3 listens in, I'm like, I love this album. So, yeah, there's that. Since Simon is here, we're going to talk about Alchemist with Australian. See what they did there? What is this? This is basically a concept album centering around mankind's impact on the environment of Australia. So it's kind of an apocalyptic type of concept. And the album, I was revisiting it a bit today. The guy's voice, it took me a long time to put my finger on it. There's a lot of clean singing or shouting style on here. He reminds me of Burton C. Bell from the clean vocals of Burton C. Bell from Fear Factory. The music at times feels a bit like Neurosis, but not as spiritually charged. There's just an atmosphere to it. kind of a modern kind of plotting style. I don't know. They're an interesting band. There's some harsher vocals on the album as well, but there's a lot of cleans on there. But yeah, this is a good record. I haven't spun it in ages. It was cool to revisit it. And Macabre with Dahmer. This is we got Paramecium documenting the life and times of Jesus Christ. We've got Chicago's Macabre talking about the life and times of Jeffrey Dahmer. So I'm not a big serial killer guy, and I think the glorification of serial killers is pretty lame in my book. This here, you know, it's talking. They're not really glorifying him as a way to basically just, I don't know. They kind of are, but these guys are still really great musically. Thrashy death metal, old school style. Some of the songs are funny, and you know, some of that humor that seeps into it too. I've never been a huge fan of, but these guys are technically great. Yeah, I can stop there. You know what? I'm going to show this one because I've never seen anybody show this record on the internets. But Howl's Eve, Death and Insanity.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think this. What'd you say?
I thought you might pull this one.
Oh, really? Okay. I thought this was. I was coming out of left field with this one. Man, when this came out, I listened to the crap out of this record, and it's funny because every song is about death, one way or another.
That's the concept.
Goblet of Gore, Lethal Tendencies, Plea of the Age, Suicide, Nefarious, Nobody Lives Forever, Death and Insanity. Every song they say death in it a bunch. This is one of those bands, or at least they're from Atlanta, right?
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep.
They really did not sound like anybody. And they kind of were a speed metalish band, a speed metal version of US power metal. I don't know. There's a lot of aggression and grit to them. It's really hard to explain.
Yeah. I think they're almost they don't sound like Exciter, but they fall in that same weird niche where they're neither power nor thrash nor speed, but the Venn diagram is really tiny, and they're the one band that are right there in that.
I think their best album is probably their debut, Tales of Terror, but this is a really good follow-up. Their third album, Monument, they got really weird, and there's still some good songs on that record, but it's a little too overproduced. And the cover, it was during the time where Metal Blade was airbrushing, and they had half-naked ladies with papier-mâché things on their heads, and it was just a weird time in Metal Blade's history, and that band did not fit that dynamic anymore. But
I think they just reissued that one.
Monument?
Yeah, like I've seen copies of that flying around.
Yep, I have.
Like sealed.
Right, Charlie.
Yeah.
Yep, there's more here, but yeah, we're good.
However, I think it's important to at least mention Ahab.
Oh shit, yeah.
You don't have to put me on the screen.
Okay,
that's all I wanted to say. It's you know, a concept band, you know, and it's a concept band in that it's, you know, they passed the Moby Dick thing and they kept on going, and I like that they stayed with it, and that record in particular, you know, the Divinity of Oceans, I think is the one I pulled up.
Yep, that
record is really, really great.
It's a good record.
So, yeah, really good. Funeral Doom. So, but yeah,
there's one more we should mention before we quit, and we're going to be talking about this for probably an hour and a half this coming Wednesday on the Album Club, and that would be Lord Weird Sluffeg's Traveler. And I figured I was hoping Alan would show this one.
I figured you would, so I didn't pull it.
I don't quite understand the concept. Alan, you want to maybe give them oh, by the way, this is a perfect riff album. There is not one throwaway riff. This is an absolute amazing album. Anyway, Alan, take us away with the meaning behind this.
Yeah, the TLDR version is that Traveler was the science fiction equivalent of Dungeons and Dragons. Both were tabletop role-playing games developed around the same time there, late 70s into the early 80s. Dungeons and Dragons focused on, well, Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah. Traveler focused on, you know, it was more like the Star Wars version. It was like space travel, you know, going from galaxy to galaxy, all that kind of stuff. One of these two things went on to become a cultural icon to this day. The other one is called Traveler. It never quite got over the hump in terms of a fan base. but a lot of people do remember it really fondly. So Slothfeg did an entire album about some of the different concepts from it. If anybody remembers the short-lived Firefly TV series,
God, I love that show and the movie
which
Serenity.
was really great. Firefly
Amazing.
is heavily influenced by Traveler as well. Even in the
Really?
pilot episode, the first time they're taking off in the Firefly ship, Walsh announces, "Welcome aboard, travelers," and the line was very deliberately written as an ode to the role-playing game. So yeah, Traveler it's Dungeons and Dragons in space, but nobody bought it, so nobody remembers it. Except
It's amazing.
people. But yeah, it's a cool concept album with all these alien races. There was like a lot of genetic stuff. Was it genetic manipulation and the harm it could do was a big kind of sub theme in the context of the game.
We thought that we weren't going to have that many records to show.
Yeah, it's true.
Yep.
You start doing a little
I
digging.
still got like a bunch left. I mean,
I didn't get to any of these.
Yeah.
As it turns out, metal is just even more chock full of nerds than we thought.
we had an indication. We had a pretty good indication.
I know.
Yeah.
And I didn't even pick like half of the concept records. I just the ones I can remember. I mean, it's crazy how much this is such a part of our kind of collective DNA that like writing concept records. It's such a huge thing. That's cool. This is cool. This has been really fun.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Austin and Charlie, for joining us and talking a bit about the new Panopticon record. Everybody, go check out The Haunted Heart. Let me just roll this off for you. Det hjemsøkte hjertet.
The hjemsøkte hjertet.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. I don't know why you correct me. And perfect, but
yeah, no, you did great. That was good, and I'm sure I'm horrifically mispronouncing. I'm sure there's some Norwegian in there who's going to criticize me, so it's fine.
I think when you were talking about naming it early on, I'm like, why don't you name it something in English? You're like, no, it's because of this and that. I'm like, all right, whatever. I'll just not pronounce it ever.
I knew full on that I was going to catch a bunch of shit for it, but and I saw the Banger TV thing where Blaine like didn't even try.
There's this one guy, I gotta find him on Instagram for you, but he's from the South and the way he says it is fucking awesome. I'll find it.
I can't wait. Yeah, send me that. Maybe send that to me.
Privately
in the chat.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to direct that on us because you and I are from the South. And it's only a matter of time until that eye looks at us. So. Right. Well, thank you guys so much for having us.
Thanks for joining us.
It's a joy to be with you dudes.
We'll get you back on again soon. Yeah. And
thank you both very much for taking the time to do it.
We appreciate
it. Always a pleasure. It's so fun, and I'm glad. I didn't think I was going to piss anyone off today, but I guess not talking metal's enough.
I know. Shit.
Yeah, whatever.
I always got to ruffle someone's feather.
Oh yeah. Well, thank y'all very much for having us. It's a joy to be with you.
And same for sure. And we've got some stuff going on Sunday. We've got the third installment to our new release roundup. We'll be on at 6 o'clock.
Speaking of pissing people off.
Pissing people off. Yes, we'll be pissing people off on Sunday. Before you go and watch the Mayhem Sunday over on Shredbeer's channel with Miss A, Lee, and Shredbeard. I'm not sure who their guest is, but they're at 8. We'll be at 6. We'll be rambling on about an hour about the new Metal Church, the new Frozen Soul.
Yep. The new Dark Throne. And the new Spirit Adrift.
Spirit Adrift, that's right. And
so
it'll be a fun
asking about the Dark Throne in the chat. So you can hear what Marty and I think about it. And Logan, of course, will be joining us too. We'll tackle that Sunday night.
Also, I see Mike Seatown in the chat. I'm looking forward to seeing the show with Catharsis.
Yep.
I think he's going to the Boston show. Yep. I'm hoping to make it out to that, but I don't know. It might be a very tall order, but we shall see.
That would be so cool, man.
Yeah. Pat, I think from Ground Zero Salem's going, and also Jason Hook from Let's Get Into It are going to that show too.
That's a fun group.
Absolutely great group of dudes. Okay, that's it. Everybody go check out the new Panopticon. Go check out the second pressing of the Weft album.
Yeah.
Splintered Ore is also available. And yeah, we're going to get these guys on again soon. Don't hang up, dudes. And thank you, everybody, for all the super chats and hanging out with us in the chat tonight. We appreciate you as always. Always great to see you folks.
Yep.
And check out our Discord server. Today was Emperor T-shirt Friday. Go on there and take a picture of of course, it's too late now. It's no longer Friday, but cheers, everyone. Yep. See you all on Sunday over at Mayhem Sunday.
Yep.
Cheers, everybody.
Everybody have a great Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
take
right.
care.
Yeah. Right on.
Yeah.
Be safe out there.
Hell yeah.
Mm.